It's on that shorty new year, shorty new year. Come along to Camp Shorty. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, it's Shorty New Year. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. Come along to Camp Shorty, we're so glad you're here. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. Come along to Camp Shorty, we're so glad you're here. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. Come along to Camp Shorty, we're so glad you're here. Camp Shorty is where you will find family. Our beautiful minds will greet you with glee. At Camp Shorty, you can shine and shine bright because Miss Shorty Camp Leader is a fucking delight. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. Come along to Camp Shorty, so glad you're here. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. Come along to Camp Shorty, so glad you're here. Your opinions are valid, you can fly like a bird. With your comments on screen, you will always be heard. It's the best chat on YouTube, you can cuss all you want. And here at Camp Shorty, we even say cunt. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. Come along to Camp Shorty, so glad you're here. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. Come along to Camp Shorty, so glad you're here. Let your raw cats be free, so liberating. We stay on topic, although occasionally things get a bit feral, but it's clear to see. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. Come along to Camp Shorty, so glad you're here. It's a Miss Shorty New Year, a Shorty New Year. Come along to Camp Shorty, so glad you're here. It's a Miss Camp Shorty is where you will find family. Our beautiful minds will greet you with glee. At Camp Shorty, you can shine and shine bright because Miss Shorty Camp Leader is a fucking delight.
Hi, shorties. Happy New Year officially. Oh my goodness. Are you all okay in 2026? Oh, hi. Hi. Pig's ears for the friends. The little greedy furry friends. A big one for Buster because he's a big boy. Turns out Poppy gets the bigger one because she's stout and she needs the sustenance. Hi. How was I? I was almost on time tonight. New year, not a new me. I cleaned my glasses. Looks like I didn't clean them very well. You know me. It's like the more things change, the more they stay the same. Hang on, let me get some semblance of vision here in my eyeballs. Are you all feeling all right? I'm feeling amazing. I just put my rings on. Always the last minute shit round here. And these ones just went on straight away. Perhaps 3 days of feeling unwell has helped one's body fat, maybe my fluid levels. Hi, Stephanie blah, 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 my gorgeous wife. Lainey, Laura, I'm really happy you're here. I'm happy you're all here. But Laura lives in Tasmania, and today, we are going to be talking about a monumental event which happened in Tasmania, which is the little island section of Australia down the bottom. So I've been to Port Arthur before 1996. I think I went in 1989 with my family, my parents, my delightful parents. We did a road trip around. It's the most beautiful place. Tasmania is stunning. If you ever come to Australia, Americans or international folk, you must go to Tasmania. Crunch, crunch. It's easy. It's easy and small enough to drive around. It's the most beautiful scenery, I swear. Oh, anyway, thank you for being here, Laura. So thank you. Who was this that said this? Simi. Of course it was Simi. Hi, Simi. Replay crew, hi. Thank you for being here after the fact. It will be quite frankly amazing if you are here because the channel is being suppressed. So before I go on to replay crew notification, please share this out to people you know who you think might enjoy it. Wrong word. Be enlightened by this. But replay crew, hi. If you would like to watch the live chat replay, excuse me, on your handheld device, it's easy peasy. All you do is go to the few little dots in the top right of the comment tab and swipe left, and it'll give you the option to watch the live chat replay on your phone, your Android, your iPhone, tablet. Hang on, I'm going to clear my throat. Wow. I don't think I've said many words this morning. Ha. Lainey says, hi, guys. I'm having dinner in Chicago at the airport on my way back to South Carolina to resume my trip at my sister's. Happy New Year. Amazing. Happy New Year to you too. Vixie, hi. It's been a minute. Yes, our beautiful Ms. What the Fuck created that mashup and video. Love it. Love. Opal Gypsy's here. Amazing. Actually, back to my comment on Tasmania. Even us Aussies in chat, if you haven't been to Tasmania, gotta go. So let me just put myself over here for a minute. So Port Arthur is and Laura I'm going to just pull this up out of my general knowledge. I haven't done full research on the location of Port Arthur, but it's obviously on the coastline of Tasmania, I believe on the south. It's whoa. She should have done more research. A penal colony? Port Arthur. It's a historical site. And this whole area that is there on the background is the place where this horrific, the worst ever massacre, mass shooting in Australian history. 35 people were slaughtered in a very short amount of time by, allegedly, well, no, he's in prison forever, by one lone gunman. And sorry, the dogs are choking on their pig's ears. And there's one road in, and then obviously surrounded by water and bushland. It's a tourist destination. Apparently on this day, on April 28th, a Sunday, 1996, there were about 500 people there. And given that it's a penal, there was a lot of international and interstate visitors to the site. The massacre occurred at about 1:30 p.m., so just after lunch. There's a cafe there called the Broad Arrow Cafe. There's walking tours and many. God, the dogs are crunching loud today. Many tour buses that come in bringing tourists, and the walking tours, I believe, are on the hour, perhaps the half. No, I think the hour, with about a 55-minute walking tour to different areas of Port Arthur. Or they definitely were at back then, with a 5-minute sort of changeover between one walking tour finishing and the next one beginning. So that's the location. That's where we are. Hope 8 Fear, hi. Teresa, hi. Stephanie, thank you. That reminds me. I emptied out that. Wait, let me make myself big again. Let me embiggen. I emptied out my Christmas decoration baubles from our merch draw raffle bowl. We won't. There's not a huge number of names in there at the moment, so the odds are very good to win yourself. We won't do it yet. We'll do it towards the end. To win yourself like a mug or a cap or a winter hat, a beanie, or a t-shirt off the Miss Shorty merch store. So all super chats, super stickers, buy me a coffee, gifted memberships, new memberships, Cash App, and PayPal will get you in the draw. So right now there's about 20 entries because we had, oh look, my tattoos disappeared that are black. I did have almost 5 weeks off, and we have had very small audiences of late. So a lot of the people in there have got some, like there's only a handful of people in there, regular gifters, regular donations. So the odds are good for a few of you, but so throw me all the money. Oh, Christy, speaking of, wait. And Arca got it. Did Arca change their name back? No. Hello, streamer. Miss Snotty, she says, as she's sniffing. That's what Arca's current handle is, although maybe not, because they're called Arca again. Hang on, let me write these two down, because Christy, you're in the draw, and Miss Steph, you're in the draw. Wow, I'm feeling very surreal and dissociated today. It's a little odd. I don't know whether it's because there's no video playing and I've just got one ear. And Steph did another one, Salty Sleuth. That one is from Mike. Oh, Arca. R.I.P. Miss Snotty. Oh, I kind of like that one. Hang on. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Steph. I'll put Mike down, okay, Steph? Hello, Mike O'Day. Where is Mike O'Day, Stephanie? And I'll put down Mike. P.S. Mike's never did choose something from the last time he won. I'm just saying. Okay. So, whoa, disappearing. I will continue. Now, streamers are fast to time me out with that name. Not here. And you are mocking me. That's stupid. That's crazy. Wait, Arca, you give me this perfect opportunity to play this. Hang on. Because you know me, I'm such a professional. Jeez Louise. God, it could have been such a seamless transition. This, man, you can't be doing that. That's crazy. It's crazy. Why would anyone time you out with that other than the person about whom the troll is? That's ridiculous. People take themselves too seriously. Okay. So good to see you, Snotty. Can I just call you? No, I could still call you Arca. Anyway. So, he's at work. Ugh, rude. What's Stream Elements? Does Stream Elements still refuse to say that I'm a professional? No. Now, so back to it. So you know me lately, right? Lately I've been on some kind of little mission, a journey of enlightenment, awakening and noticing, and it's to the detriment of the channel, frankly. And that's okay with me. So I've come to understand literally only the last few months that, you know, sometimes, wow, stop. Stream Elements, you got me. Sometimes, you know, this is a wild concept, but sometimes the people that we trust, like governments, people in power, officials, doctors, scientists, the media, I mean, even streamers, aren't always honest and truthful. And sometimes they present propaganda to us as fact. Yikes. So I'm daily having these moments of horror. Hi, hi, Coco, hi. Good to see you. Happy New Year too. Now, so Australia is theoretically this idyllic sort of place, this last bastion of fair dinkum. That's an Australian saying. And while I think of it, I'm wearing my God. It's Milo Vegemite. Sorry about the green screen hates me right now. That's a VB, Steph. No, it's Milo. Vegemite and Buffalo Bill ice cream. Thank you to our beautiful friend Shanbun for these hilarious earrings. 50 earrings for 50 years old, and this one is a iced Vovos, fairy bread down the bottom, and that is a can of VB in the middle. So Steph, I'm not a professional. Stream Elements refuses to say it these days. Okay, so Australia, like, I mean, and I've been like the lucky country, right? Surely, hybrid, Happy New Year. Surely, 30 years ago, this horrific massacre. It's like a Buffalo Bills are like an ice cream. What would you guys call them? It's ice cream on a stick, and it's like creamy ice cream, chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry in the shape of a cowboy buffalo bill. And then it's called a buffalo bill. It's got a bubblegum nose and chocolate, like fake chocolate on the back. They're pretty good. It's very old school. Thank you, Hope 8 Fear. VB does stand for Victoria Bitter Beer. Thank you. Sorry, I was speaking mostly to Steph there because she's obsessed with VB and outraged that she can't purchase VB. Is that through International Beers? Is that what that thing is called, Steph? Yeah, VB stubby. Gross VB is disgusting. Don't even start me on Foster's. Oh, my speaker just turned off. I hope I'm just writing your name down for the draw. Thank you so much. Welcome, new members. Buffybot. Now, so because I kind of avoid, like, no offense, America, but I've always just assumed. Oh, wrong thing. I've always just assumed that Australia would never, would never. It didn't even occur to me until the Bondi Beach massacre. What was that? Almost 2 weeks ago now. Throwing shade at Foster's, it deserves it, Arca. It's creamsicle or popsicle. Yeah, I guess. Now, again, I thought so. I knew so. What happened at Bondi Beach absolutely happened. So let me make that distinction. Same as what happened at Port Arthur. I think it's the whole world, Vixie. Port Arthur happened. False flag doesn't mean fake. Didn't happen, right? I mean, it can mean that, but there. I guess there should be a different or a distinction. So I'll make it here now. False flag can and often does mean an event that is manufactured, that doesn't happen organically, to spurn an outcome, usually politically, to ensure political, legislative, or wartime change. Well, basically, and so yes, and so yes, We'll get there. Fuck, this is going to be a couple of episodes because so basically then what the powers that be, those trusted leaders, tell us, and the media, their puppets, tell us, is all part of this bigger agenda to either manufacture consent, for example, going like 9/11, going into a 20-year war, or like Bondi Beach. And this might be outrageous to some of you, but like, sure, there's a radical Islam problem, radicalized terrorists, no matter where their religious or political affiliations ostensibly lie. This is a problem. But make no mistake about it, the Bondi Beach massacre was a manufactured thing to ensure Australia is the petri dish, the litmus test for what boundaries society, the public, will be okay with. Boundaries probably isn't the right word, to bring in new laws. So suddenly in Australia now we have, anti-Semitism laws, like hate speech laws. Excuse me? We don't have a right to free speech in Australia. It's a privilege. So bringing in new laws, bringing in new legislation, ensuring, like, getting manufactured consent for war. Like, honestly, Buster, every time. We're live. You've had the door open all day. What are we doing here? You don't need to go outside. You're just being a pest. And I'm trying to be a professional. It's because of you that Stream Elements won't say that I'm a professional anymore, you dickhead. Isn't that right? Bloody idiot. So anyway. So basically, other false flags. Good God, hang on. Buster's very impatient. Hold that thought. We can have these huge conversations because this is big. So, well, they had so basically, who was this? Laws only keep honest people honest. Yep. So we've got some videos to watch. Buster, you're just gonna have to wait. I'm so sorry. I'm on a roll. TED Talk. Fuck. I've got a bunch of videos to watch tonight, and then some harrowing shit. Like, this is disgusting. That governments, politicians, bought and paid for by whoever, doesn't matter. I mean, it matters, but don't worry about that. That they will happily, for the agenda, subject innocent victims, innocent citizens, like what, almost 5,000 people in 9/11. Don't even start me. And that's people who died then. All the people that have died since, suicide, lung complications, all of it. If you haven't watched my 9/11 stream, you have to go and watch it. Wow. Guns. So Australia actually now has more guns than it did in Port Arthur. In 1996, more guns. There's legal firearms owners. The perpetrators of the Bondi Massacre, ISIS affiliations, mind you, ASIO, Australian Secret Intelligence Agency, I think, our CIA, knew about those two terrorists going to Thailand and training how to use those weapons at a terrorist camp, ISIS, which stands for Israeli Secret Intelligence Service, for the record. It's funny how two ISIS-affiliated terrorists, yes, radical Islamists, shot and killed Jews, right? You'd think so. That's the diabolical nature of the false flag attack. October 7. So we're going to get into all, like, is another example. Sorry, I'm doing all this. You know what I'm talking about when maybe you don't necessarily. Hi, Butterfly. Good to see you. Well, so those two terrorists, the perpetrators, Buster, I'm coming, please. The father owned 6 guns. ASIO knew about this, and the son was on a 6-month watch list. Yes, Buster, and they deemed him not at risk anymore, and either happily or inadvertently or incompetently took him off the watch list. What are we doing here? Australian government knew about that. So the Port Arthur thing, let me put on a song because Buster, and then I'll get back right into it, and we'll talk more specifically about Port Arthur, because this is like 2 days old for me, this realization. I cannot stress enough how much, like, I sat on the edge of my bed going, what the fuck? Yes, Buster, coming. Here, let me put a song on. BRB, just because Buster's being crazy. Let's do this one.
Lies, 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 done with your lies, standing up to you. Enough's enough, we're done here. You know none of it's true. Big loud voice with conviction, got receipts to show you don't want to see, not listening. Okay, well that's on you. All y'all want homogenous, not doing it, that's boring. Watch me sparkle, watch me shine, so dancing endlessly. Lies, 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 done with your lies, standing up to you. Enough's enough, we're done here now. You know none of it's true. Hush now, it's happening, it's taking back the power. Oof, y'all done with the lies, not your finest hour. There was a time when we were shaking, conditioned to be silent. That time has passed, vindicated, now you hear us scream. Relax now, get the fuck out. Don't like what is being said. That's fine, just walk away. Lies, 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 done with your lies, standing up to you. Enough's enough, we're done here now. You know none of it's true. Don't let the door hit walking out. If real talk, it offends you. Bye bye, girl, we had a blast. Lies, 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 done with your lies, standing up to you. Enough's enough, we're done here now. We don't care, we're saying it, we're slaying it. You lie like the air you breathe, amusing what you see. Observe without flinching, there is no lynching, so lies.
We are done with the lies. We're standing up. That song was written about particular individuals. However, it has a broader application now, right? So Martin, so who was it that said so Martin Bryant didn't do it, or something along those lines? I've just always assumed he did. I've listened to long form podcasts about the Port Arthur massacre, and I'm going to give you guys some clips so you've got a better understanding of the vibe on the day, the breaking news. But it turns out, and I think I've heard this, but I never really made the connection because I didn't really understand the idea of a patsy. Shout out Luigi, shout out Tyler Robinson. But Martin Bryant has an IQ of 66. He has the mental. Sorry about the squeaky chair. It's a whole new thing. We love this. He has the mental capacity of an 11-year-old. And this massacre happened in a very short period of time. The main there was 22 people, I believe, killed inside the Broad Arrow Cafe within a handful of minutes. It was sniper precision. He allegedly, the shooter, Martin Bryant, sent the only two police officers prior to the event happening on a wild goose chase with a call to the police about, I think, some drug related thing. So they are off and away. The response time until there was armed police, until the SWAT team, whatever they're called, SOG, I think, arrived, was 6 hours. The first police officer that was dropped in was 2 hours, I believe, after the event happened, even though there was calls made to the police while the shooter was active. 2 hours later, they dropped one unarmed, no weapon, and our police have weapons still. One unarmed officer to take names and addresses of the people, of the survivors. There's so much sus shit, right? So because I'm a Twitter bandit these days, and it's my biggest research tool, it has opened my eyes daily to things I was just oblivious to. I can't stress enough how important a resource Twitter is. On New Year's Eve, I happened upon a tweet, a post. Buster, I'm not doing it. You don't need to go outside again, for goodness sake. New Year's Eve, I was getting into bed early. It was 9:30, and I was like, "Wait, what? Wait, what the fuck?" Yeah, they had a. Sorry, wait, pause. This will all come out, but the fucking what the fucks about this? They're never ending. Diabetic? No, he's just being a pest. They weren't. You know what? They weren't held for 2 hours. It was 6 hours before. They had a barbecue off site. All of the responding officers were held back. Yes, it wasn't 2. It was 6 hours, and they were given a barbecue while they waited. While these poor people. Anyway. So on New Year's Eve. So for me, it was 2 nights ago. For you guys, still 2 nights ago, but it was New Year's Eve here. I happened upon this tweet. And I was like, I'm sorry, wait, what? I'm sorry, wait, what? This was what literally happened for me. Oh, no, it's on repeat. Sorry, two record scratches. It was 2 record scratches. I'm not even kidding. I was like, what? Port Arthur? Not Martin Bryant, what? And then I'm like, I wonder if there's anything on YouTube. And I typed in Port Arthur Massacre. And it was like, all the usual shit. So I typed in Port Arthur false flag. And I was like, well, holy shit. So I watched what we're going to watch, the long form interview by a chap, a guy called, I think his name's Phil Moder, but I'll confirm that when we get to it. An Aussie guy who was interviewing with a Canadian podcaster. And I was like, oh man. And then I happened upon, and then I kept looking on that sort of search result in YouTube and found like a woman, a tour guide from Port Arthur on the day, Wendy, who whose narrative, whose story I've never heard. She gave this speech in, I think it was far north New South Wales, the North Coast, about 3 or 4 years after. It's the most powerful thing ever. This woman. And the diabolical nature of, Buster, I can't. Please, Buster, you just went outside. Please. Sit down. Sit down, buddy. Yeah, you've got a toy and I'm very proud of you, but can you not growl at the back door, please, and Poppy hi. So we're going to watch her hour-long presentation to this group of very Aussie men and women about her experience on scene. It's brutal. Like I was like, it's brutal. The empaths, we all, it's brutal. The yeah, well, Brett, Teresa, see, I just hadn't ever, this is all very new to me. So, yes, the Wasp Files, that's the guy. So the Wasp Files, I will, Steph, you really should pay attention. I appreciate you being at the light. That's not me being rousing on you. The light, we will need lightness through this because it's heavy, but not necessarily. I mean, tonight, yes. But I'm going to take you on the same sort of journey that I've been on the last 24 hours. So let's play. I've got some very short clips. Hey, Gabby, how you going? Good to see you. Hope Empaths Unite. Buster, you will be the death of me. I love you, but holy fuck. You even growling? Man, you just went outside. Like, you can't need to poo. You can't need to wee. Here, wait. Is it this one? Okay. So here's a short, like a YouTube short that I found, which is the good old days of someone holding a literal VHS camcorder. Can you see that? Yeah, wait, let me change this around a bit. Is it this one? Yeah. I'm gonna get rid of. No, that's cool. So this is when the active shooter. Can I do so? It's so weird playing. Buster, seriously, man.
That's a shotgun.
Take the shotgun.
Oh, we have shit.
That's a shotgun.
Take the shotgun.
You stay inside. I'm pretty sure someone's got a gun. In fact, you're bloody positive of it.
There's somebody going crazy, shooting people here. There he is. He's over there. I can't believe it.
When you practiced shooting, where did you hold the gun?
On the left.
So you're left-handed?
I'm right with this hand.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, yeah.
Oh, but this is not...
So if you held a gun, you would pull the trigger with your finger on your left hand?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right. And did you ever practice shooting from the hip?
No, never.
Never? Martin, do you remember the 28th of April, Sunday the 28th of April this year?
No, I don't. Was that the day I suppose everyone's talking about?
That's a shotgun.
Take the shotgun.
So, I mean, it's the guy that's in prison for life. Sure, that's Martin Bryant. Buster, BRB, fuck's sake. Okay, so there it is. The shooter was right-handed. For one of the first red flags, some more red flags. Some more red flags would be his IQ. Subsequent red flags would be the fact that initially there was a 3-year like gag order, I guess, complete lockdown of all of the evidence for 3 years. Only the police commissioner, I think. He's not diabetic. He's just being a pest. They don't do this when I'm not. I'm not on the stream, but yes, thank you. So after when those 3 years were almost up, they changed it to be 75 years, which I think no, it must not be 3 years, because basically only the police commission police commissioner can look at the files until 2090, which means that everybody, any witnesses, anybody, any survivors will all be dead. So let's watch wait. Let's watch this, which was what the news.
All roads remain sealed off to the Port Arthur site tonight while police try to negotiate with the gunman. Around 2:30 this afternoon, the man began a shooting rampage, firing a hail of bullets throughout the historic site, killing at least 30 people and wounding 18. Tonight, police are continuing their search for more dead and injured.
The search goes on down there. It's now dark, very difficult, but the main thing we'd be looking for would be anybody who's still alive but injured, so we can get them in for treatment.
The man has been holed up in a bed and breakfast lodge near the Port Arthur site for the past 7 hours with 3 hostages. Police believe his hostages are a man and woman, the owners of the lodge, and a third person, possibly an interstate tourist.
The man is in a building that has attic rooms that gives a good view of all the surroundings around the building. My police officers are down around the house in some numbers. The fellow inside the house is firing at them. So the situation down there is still extremely dangerous and volatile.
The man is negotiating with police and has made several demands.
So, no, he couldn't. It's impossible. He's right-handed. I mean, he's left-handed. The shooter was right-handed. He was adamant in his not guilty plea. He had no. There's so many weird things. He was never going to say he did it until about 6 weeks after. 6 weeks after his new attorney went and spent time with Martin Bryant's mother, who then convinced Martin to plead guilty, which meant there was no trial, and he's never been spoken to since. Yeah, I said that at the start, Steph. Yes, it's a tourist site. You must have been busy doing things. Yes, so exactly, Teresa. So who was Vixie said, the thing is, back then they could get away with this shit, but not so much now. Charlie Kirk? They're getting away with it blatantly. Like, blatantly. They're just more audacious about it these days. So how about we watch because this chap, the Wasp Files, is his channel, and I'll share that with you in chat. But I'm also going to show a lot of his work, his sort of documenting of things along the way in this series. Let me just make sure. Oh no, this is another. Oh no, this is a short clip to give you the TLDR to prime you for the longer form interview that we're going to watch. So let me just do that. Oh, I'm halfway through. It is 8 minutes, this one, I think.
In 1996, 35 Australians were killed and 29 more were injured in what became the deadliest mass shooting in Australian history. And within just weeks, Australia's right to own firearms, even for self-defense, was gone, permanently. The media reported that a 28-year-old man named Martin Bryant entered the Broad Arrow Cafe at Port Arthur with a semi-automatic rifle, shot dozens of people, and later went on to kill more at nearby locations. Within hours, the national narrative was set. He acted alone, and Australia needed to be disarmed to prevent it from ever happening again. But is this what really happened? Since that day, hundreds of pieces of information, eyewitness reports, and unanswered legal questions have surfaced, and many of them don't match the official story. In this video, we'll walk through it all, from the political groundwork laid before the massacre, eyewitness reports, and the sealed evidence files that still remain hidden today. Quick disclaimer, this video does not claim to know exactly what happened at Port Arthur. It presents public records and eyewitness accounts to explore inconsistencies, not to make accusations. We encourage critical thinking and fact-checking. To support us, consider becoming a YouTube channel member or Patreon, link in the description below. Nearly a decade before the massacre unfolded, in 1987, New South Wales Premier Barry Unsworth was quoted saying, quote, "It will take a massacre in Tasmania before we get gun law reform in Australia," end quote. That comment, made 9 years before Port Arthur, has plagued this story ever since. Many consider it just an unfortunate coincidence, but others can't help wonder, why Tasmania, and why did everything fall into place so swiftly after the massacre? Conveniently, just before the massacre, then Prime Minister John Howard spoke out on his views on gun control, saying firearms should only be held by the military, the police, and the government. So when the event occurred, the policy groundwork appeared to already be in place, and within weeks, the strictest and most dramatic gun law reform in the world had begun. The man accused was Martin Bryant, a 28-year-old from Tasmania with a recorded IQ of around 66. That's about the cognitive ability of a Year 3 student, and for context, to enter the military you need at least an IQ of 80. The media described him as a loner who simply snapped and executed dozens of people with chilling precision, but the confusing part was he was completely untrained, slow-speaking, and easily confused. And the shooting itself at the cafe specifically had 20 people killed and 12 more injured in just over 1 minute. And it has been called by experts a level of marksmanship and tactical speed with consistent military training, not the abilities of someone with a mental disability. Bryant initially pleaded not guilty, but after 5 months in solitary confinement and after allegedly being tortured and threatened with never seeing his mother again, he changed his plea to guilty, which meant there would be no trial, no cross-examination, and no presentation of the evidence in court as they had a confession. More than 200 people saw the event and survived in Port Arthur that day, but the number of people who identified Bryant as the shooter was just 2. Eyewitness Wendy Skerr, who was on site during the attack and knew Bryant, said the shooter had long, scraggly hair, but emphasized that it wasn't Martin Bryant. She also testified that all of the cafe managers were told not to come in on that very day, something that she had never seen happen before. Skerr also noted that the exit door, where 6 bodies were piled up, wouldn't open during the shooting. The media claimed it was a faulty lock, but she and others later discovered that it had been nailed shut prior to the event. Another survivor, Graham Collier, who was shot at point-blank range, stated definitively that that man was not Martin Bryant. A separate eyewitness, John Rook, described seeing a man about 5'5" with short reddish hair and a full beard firing from near the cafe entrance, not Bryant, who was taller with long blonde hair and no beard. Other eyewitnesses also reported hearing gunfire from multiple directions, as some claimed there were more than one shooter and that they moved far too quickly for one person to be responsible for the event. These testimonies were never tested in court because, again, no trial ever took place. According to reports, one of the guns Bryant allegedly used had previously been handed in to the Victorian police as part of the gun return program. Yet somehow that same weapon ended up in Martin Bryant's hands in Tasmania. How the gun got from the Victorian police to Martin Bryant in Port Arthur has never been publicly explained. Even stranger, a large mortuary refrigerated truck capable of handling 30 plus bodies was present on the scene, the specially made truck, as early as 2 months before the event. According to locals, they were confused why the truck had arrived, as there had never been need in the past for a morgue truck that big in Tasmania, and shortly after the event, it was sold off. Normally, a tragedy of this scale would trigger a public inquiry or royal commission, especially if the government intended to change national laws because of it. But in this case, nothing. There was no investigation into conflicting witness reports, no ballistics match presented publicly, and no transparency about how Bryant obtained weapons. The evidence was sealed and remains so to this day. In fact, all the key documents and court records were sealed for 75 years, meaning they won't be unsealed until 2071. The cafe where the attack happened, Broad Arrow Cafe, was also quickly demolished after the event, removing the crime scene forever. Right after the attack, Prime Minister Howard introduced the National Firearms Agreement, which resulted in mass confiscation and destruction of civilian firearms. Ownership of guns for self-defense was outlawed. New restrictions were introduced on magazine size, firearm type, and registration, and the Australian government spent hundreds of $millions on buybacks, and the shift was celebrated globally and nationally at the time as a model of good gun control. But to this day, many Australians still ask, did the government do this for public safety or for political convenience? The Port Arthur massacre was real. People died, families were devastated. But when 35 people are killed, and the entire country's laws are changed based on it, yet there's no trial, no inquiry, and evidence remains sealed for most of our lifetime, you have every right to ask questions. We're not here to tell you what to think, just to present information that's rarely discussed, so you can decide for yourself. But with so many inconsistencies, overlooked voices, and sealed records, this topic demands a closer look. If you believe in truth, accountability, and want more Aussies to know these details, like and share the video. Check out one of the videos on screen now and our merch, and consider
muted. So Martin Bryant, in my opinion, was never actually at Port Arthur. He was at that little that cottage that Simi said so was the cafe burnt down. So I believe Martin Bryant was there at the little cottage, the Seascape, I think it was called, while this was happening. I don't think he was ever there on the site. It was only one location. The second location was the Seascape Cottage, which is the burnt out stuff you saw, which, we're going to watch the long form interview now, which will answer a lot of your questions. The owners of the cottage were found shot dead afterwards. after Martin Bryant ran out of the flaming cottage after the siege. So there's a whole lot of shady shit, right? A whole lot of shady shit. Somebody else, and Opal answered it nicely. Somebody said, Christy asked, so how do you defend yourselves? We have a totally different culture in Australia, although thanks to the Kalergi plan, thanks to the forced invasion, mass migration of, and this is not me being racist, it's just a fact, and it's orchestrated by a certain set of people in war-torn countries, because of the forced migration across the Western world by brown and black people fleeing their war-torn countries, wars that are orchestrated and justified by false flag events separate to this. Our culture of violence in Australia is changing of late because of the civil unrest due to this absolute dilution, same as in the UK. But make no mistake about it, this is not a brown and black people problem. This is a 100-year plus long plan by a set of people to destabilize, disrupt, and dilute the Western world culture, bloodlines, and civility for their own gains. But I won't go there today. Our culture is different. We don't have you don't. There's no need. There's no need to defend oneself. Like just when like people having guns. Like I think it's a vicious cycle. I'm fine with the gun laws. The problem with with the Bondi Beach massacre and this renewed gun buyback thing, sure, feels political, right? And hate speech laws and anti-Semitism laws. What I've been saying on the Twitter is that registered gun owners, including the terrorists in the Bondi Beach massacre, they're law abiding, and the criminals don't give a fuck. It's not going to do anything. It's all political show, right? It's all showmanship, kosher theatre, dare I say. Christy, thank you so much. Okay. And Jim Jerry Gunn got it. Huzzah! YouTube, for all YouTube's drunkenness of late, is being rather kind and fair with the allocation of the gifted memberships. Thank you, Christy. You're in the draw. Don't forget, we're going to do that draw at some point in this live stream. You don't have to be here to be the winner, but you know, why wouldn't you be here? Bloody good content, if I don't say so myself. If I do say so myself. Okay. Steph, you know, it's just tragic. Stream Elements refuses to say that I'm a professional. Wow. Miss Mandy, hi. Now, mass migration is human trafficking. Yes. Thank you, Miss Mandy. Yeah, it's bad. It's worse. I think, you know why, Vix? I have a feeling the reason why it's so much worse, and it is so much worse in the UK, is because your land mass is so tiny. I've lived in the UK. I've lived in London. I've travelled around the British Isles, not Ireland, but Scotland, Wales, and Britain. It's tiny. You can drive the whole country in one day. The whole landmass. So of course this, and also Africa, the Middle East, the Levant, those countries are much closer. So it's a cheaper funding. And make no mistake about it, the impoverished, mostly under 35-year-old men from those countries who are being herded to particularly the UK, but I do not have the $2,000 or so roughly on average it takes to make that migration. They are funded. This is absolutely a plan being orchestrated by folks. It's called the Kalergi Plan. Google it. I'll type it in the chat. If you're not aware of the Kalergi Plan, either follow me on Twitter because I'll school you. It's harder to say here on YouTube because hello censorship. Look up the Kalergi Plan. It's working very well for the folks that incented it. There it is. I just popped that in there. Spiraling high. Honestly, I don't remember. Yeah, I'm like, sorry, I'll go back to this. I don't remember being hugely outraged before this. Like, when I was in, I think, kindergarten, so my first or second year of school, one of my classmates' father was a police officer, and he got a hold of his father's service weapon and accidentally, playing around, accidentally shot his brother dead. This little boy, he was like 5 or 6. Imagine. That was in about 1982. And our gun laws were changed in 96, 97, 96. It was almost immediately. Farmers still have weapons here, rifles and shit. People still have guns. My abusive ex, George, had a gun. Fuck. He threw it over someone's fence. Do you remember that case, Laura? Like what I just said? So the outrage comes. Yeah, thanks, Steph. The outrage, I think, is that these days, 30 years later, and we'll go back into Port Arthur in a moment, but I think the problem with false flags and very obvious agenda-driven world events is that more and more people are waking up to this. Never before has, at the click of tap on your phone or a click on your laptop, have we been able to access, like I went straight to YouTube after seeing this tweet about Port Arthur and like having my mind fucking blown, and found this content on YouTube, and they don't work as well anymore. So that's why things are ramping up now, because there are more and more people noticing and opening their eyes to all of it. Sadly, the majority still doesn't. I put a thing in a little meme in the Discord of a cartoon meme of a child saying, Mum, what's a conspiracy theorist? And the mother says, someone who realized the truth before everybody else. And I, yeah, it's a terrifying reality. So let's go to the interview that I watched first, which is a really helpful breakdown rather than my sort of fractured random little tidbits. And this is the fellow being interviewed is the guy who runs the WASP files. The channel, I'll drop that in. That some like Laura and Teresa maybe have been mentioning, maybe Gypsy, I'm not sure, Christy, I don't know, people who've been mentioning it in the chat. If you want a deep dive on the real shit, we will do it together though, as well. So let's go with this. Oh, it's muted.
Jamie, who is Martin Bryant, had been identified as Martin Bryant, was talking amiably with Terry McCarthy. There were 20 gunshots heard in the background. Someone else was firing from the cottage. The police tried to explain this away as coughs in the transcript. They were independently verified as being shots from an SKS semi-automatic rifle. Someone else was in the cottage shooting whilst Martin was literally on the phone saying, I'm making a cup of tea for the hostages and I'm going to go and they've got some eggs and salad here, and he was having this conversation. You very clearly hear gunshots in the background. So the notion, going back to identity and the Volvo and the passport, at some point, Jamie wouldn't tell the negotiator his name, but he rattled off his passport number. And he said, I know it so well because I've done lots of traveling. Lo and behold, they find the passport.
A Kodega is a guide and a storyteller, escorting you through the night, lighting the way, warding off thieves, ghosts, demons, and other oddities. Along the journey, his companions would often share with him the most curious of stories that he'd record in his codex. Perhaps you just might find yourself traveling with a Kodega and sharing one of yours.
The funny thing is with that, Lainey, I've always been someone high stand. I've always been someone who used my critical thinking and my discernment and had questions about everything, about JFK, about Marilyn Monroe, about 9/11, about COVID, about the landing on the moon. And the more and more I research, the more that files are becoming unredacted, whistleblowers are coming forward, the more the truth comes out, the more those conspiracy theories are proven to be actual fact. So like QAnon's bullshit. QAnon's a psyop. That's all bullshit. Trust the plan is bullshit. But conspiracy theory, and I might even, hi Ruthie, I might even do a little stream at some point on the origins of the slur that is conspiracy theory, the term, because like many other it's a bit like saying that's anti-Semitic. It just shuts down all reason. It's a smear campaign. Like saying someone is a conspiracy theorist basically brands them with the broad brush of crazy, and it's a lonely place to be. And so I feel very much validated recently, particularly. Yes, thank you, Britt. Recently, because all the things I've just naturally, intuitively gone, more and more, I'm like, I fucking knew it. Like, I knew it. So anyway, let's keep going with this. I love all the different perspectives. I love open-mindedness. I love not being shut down by broad brushes of propaganda tools. So like I'm just presenting it to you. You all can go and do your research. I'll give you as many links as I can. Again, I'll say if you're not on Twitter, you should be. It can be a cesspool, but it can also be a valuable resource, a very eye-opening, amazing resource. It's also laid out bare the tools of propaganda in real time on your feed, that if you have discernment, you can go, hang on a second. So let's keep going. I love you all very much.
Good evening and welcome back to another episode of Codex of Curiosities, where we dive into stories that so a lot of times.
Wait, I won't pause again, but I don't know about that, Lainey. It's not dangerous to insinuate that it can, like that. Honestly, I feel like what's dangerous is to say that people who've time and time again been proven the conspiracy theories are not paranoia. They're being proven with receipts. I think it's dangerous to have such a closed mind that you're unwilling to believe. Thanks, friend. To believe that that like this is the bullshit. Like it's a horrifying realization that that there are so many diabolical lies and treasonous acts against citizens of the world being committed by people who we trust since time began. So that's not dangerous. That's not dangerous to question everything. I'm going to push back on that. I have to push back on that, Lainey. I know it's an uncomfortable place to be. It doesn't mean every theory is true. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Discernment is the most important tool that one can have in their critical thinking arsenal. To be able to go, like imagine my horror in realizing that that like holy fuck, my mind has been blown almost every day. Every day. For the last 4 months, it's been a horrifying journey. I don't want to know this shit. It's so much easier to not know this shit. It's so much less stressful. Like I can't sleep at night, man. I just wish that it wasn't like, I wish that I'd been validated 10, 15, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. But better late than never, right? You can't close your eyes again once they've been opened. And I understand that people, it is much safer and comfortable to sit in the belief that nobody would. These people are bad. Yes. Critical thinking, exactly. Boom, Clay. Clay, it's us here at Camp Shorty in our psychology corner knowledge base. Once I go there with that, and I will, we've got a stream planned for your Saturday night, my Sunday, called The Zionist Project, part 3 of that series. Once you realize that the Zionist mindset is basically, it's psychopathy because it's intentional. Narcissism is sort of like subconscious. Psychopathy is very much and that, you know, that's okay. That's okay to say that, but do some research, Lainey. Like it's okay. It's okay to have that belief. It's also okay to respect people who possibly have like done a shitload of research into any number of these topics, and I mean, even Neil Armstrong states publicly on more than one occasion that it didn't happen. And it's a horrible thought. Nick won't come back to our channel because he refuses to believe the things that I want to just open your minds to. I'm not actually going. I'm not actually going to go there. Anyway, so let's get back on track. If this is too confronting for you, that's okay. Come back when we're doing true crime or psychology. But here we are. Here we are having this conversation. And hi, Shelley, good to see you.
Just get overlooked, missed, or you haven't even heard about. One of those ones is the Port Arthur Massacre. Now, this happened in Australia, and now this is something that I really didn't know much about until about 3 months ago. I stumbled upon it, and I was like, this seems awfully peculiar. Now,
the reason why I say that is because there are so many holes in the mainstream narrative that you could drive a tank through this. So many things don't line up, and so many coincidences happened on this day that it is impossible for all those coincidences to happen without it being orchestrated, without being more than what we really do know. I have a great documentarian coming on, Paul Motor, who has gone so deep into this subject. You know, he wanted to produce a film about it, about the murders and everything that happened, but it ended up being much more than he bargained for. He ended up realizing that this story, it doesn't line up. Nothing adds up on the story. So if you're interested in a real mind-messing story, now you'll see that there's a lot of similarities between what has happened in this incident in comparison to other incidents that you'll find in the U.S. And it's for you to piece it together and figure this out. Now, there is no disrespect to I want to be adamant about this. People lost their lives. Children lost their lives. This is a tragedy. But should we be overlooking the truth just because of a tragedy? Or should we give these people the true justice that they deserve? And by digging for the truth, that's what we all got to do. We have to dig for the truth, discover it, and don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Start asking questions. We all have to ask questions. And with that, let's jump into the interview. I'm extremely happy to have you on here because we are tackling the Port Arthur Massacre. This is something that I didn't know too much about until recently, and I'm giving myself too much credit. I don't even know that much about it. You know, I heard and I read a little bit, and then I stumbled upon your YouTube channel and your Instagram, the Wasp Files, and you know, you have a plethora of information, and this seems to have all the trademarks. You know, it kind of follows the same act that we've seen here in North America, where it's these staged false flags. And don't get me wrong, people were killed, people were murdered, but it's not what this narrative, it's not this story that they presented to us. It's something else completely different. And I know that you know way more than just about anybody else out there. So who not better than you to tell us exactly about that? So I'd love for you to, first of all, introduce yourself, Paul, and then jump into what the Port Arthur Massacre was, when it happened, and the ramifications, the story that we're told, and all the, I don't want to say, and all the holes within that mainstream story.
Yeah, firstly, thank you very much for having me on the program. One of the things I like to start off by saying is that I don't consider myself a conspiracy theorist. In fact, I despise that term. I think there are better, more appropriate appellations to use, such as an enlightened thinker or a questioning mind. And rather than conspiracy theory, I use the term alternative narrative. Historically, the term conspiracy theorist has been around since the 1900s, but it certainly was brought to the fore specifically by the CIA to discredit anybody questioning the Warren report regarding the JFK assassination. So the CIA very effectively used that moniker to be able to discredit anyone that has the courage and the guts to ask questions. And I was always brought up to question, not just to blindly accept things. There's nothing wrong with asking questions, particularly in the absence of information. So a little bit of background about the Port Arthur Massacre. It did occur quite a while ago, 29 years ago, in 1996. The most astounding aspect of this was that at the time, this was the biggest mass killing by a lone gunman in world history.
Pause. Did I hear Jim Cox is in the house? Also, hello, soliloquy, solace soliloquy. But Jim Cox, everybody loves Cox. Everybody loves Cox. Thanks all for being here. I appreciate you all very much.
And it didn't take place in America. It took place in a sleepy little tourist site, which was a historical penal colony down in Tasmania at the farthest end of Australia, where a young man went into the tourist site with high-powered semi-automatic rifles and opened fire on the civilian population and killed 35 men, women and children and injured 28 others. So it was a catastrophic, shocking event that had never been, there was no precedent to that, even in America at the time. My involvement with it was that I am a writer and a filmmaker, and I was looking to develop a project, in essence, a feature film based on some kind of event in Australian history, and no one had really touched the Port Arthur Massacre. It's a very grim and off-topic event down here in Australia. Even now, the controversy is heated, nearly 30 years later. And like all good filmmakers, I thought I want to do a film about what everybody else knew, which was that a young man at the age of 29 years old, Martin Bryant, went down.
Pause. Sorry. Ruthie. 16 months? Girl, I love you so much. We've been friends for so long. And thank you so much for your continued support. I love you very much. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I'm going to put you in the draw. We're doing a merch raffle draw sometime this live stream. So thank you so much.
Port Arthur and shot up the place and killed a lot of people, and then was convicted of the crime. I began to research the event, and the deeper I dug, the more I just had questions and said, this doesn't add up. So I've since then, for 9 years, I have dug very, very deeply into the Port Arthur Massacre, not just what I've read online and what's been espoused by various other alternative thinkers, but I've spoken firsthand to the police, first responders, victims, survivors, their families, people who knew Martin Bryant, who went to prison with him. Two of my good friends are direct survivors from Port Arthur, one of whom took a bullet in the throat on the day and survived remarkably. And these people have a different story to the mainstream narrative, and that sent me on my path of creating the WASP Files.
All right, so that is how you got started. Was you're going to jump on a story that that isn't, well, it's controversial, but hasn't gotten its full publicity, as in not publicity as in TV, but you're going to do a documentary on it. And as you dug deeper, things started to unravel, which always seems to be the case. Now, this is something, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is something that always seems to happen, that when you start to dig in this, you get that famous line of, oh, you should respect the people that were killed. Stop doing this, stop doing that. You're hurting the victims and the survivors of these. But I beg to differ. I think actually the truth is what they would want. The actual truth is what, if I was a victim, I wouldn't want some made up story placed over top of me. I would want the damn truth. And
I just want to say, I have a feeling like us relative innocents and relative unaffected citizens of the world, it's just too awful of a realization to accept the betrayal of people we trust. And if I want to link it back to something we might be able to relate to, all you free Karen Reid folks, think about the O'Keefe family. Absolutely unable, unwilling, and just refusing to accept that the people who got very close to them, the McAlberts, who've been their main support, were actually the murderers of their beloved son, John. That's micro, this is macro. That's a good analogy, I think.
I feel that this is something that just keeps, that this narrative keeps getting thrown out. But correct me if I'm wrong, and please go on with this story, because the implications of this massacre, as well as I kind of mentioned, were very severe too.
Look, where do I start? One of the things to educate people on is that, as I said, this was the biggest mass killing by a lone gunman in world history. By law, by state law in our country, it should have mandated a coronial inquest, which is a thorough, detailed, in-depth examination of the circumstances of the crime. We also have a royal commission because we're part of the Commonwealth, which is also a public inquiry. And generally speaking, when they have a perpetrator, there is an open trial. We had none of those. So the biggest mass killing in Australian history had no open trial, no coronial inquest where evidence could be presented in court, hard evidence where witnesses could give their statements, where Martin Bryant could be cross-examined. None of that occurred. All the forensics, the ballistics had been locked down. And basically the only thing that put Martin Bryant in jail for consecutive life terms was a confession that he had presented. And then they said, okay, confession, he's pled guilty, no need for a trial. And he's sentenced to jail for the rest of his life. And we have no conflicting evidence, or what they call exculpatory evidence, presented to dispute that. There are some very specific circumstances regarding the circumstances of Martin Bryant's alleged confession. I have, as I said, dug very deeply. I have credible evidence from multiple sources that Martin Bryant, who was arrested at the tail end of the shooting, was held in solitary confinement in Risdon Prison, and that there was a deliberate agenda to torture his confession out of him. And I don't mean mistreatment, I mean torture. A protracted, sustained and deliberate campaign, because he held a not guilty plea staunchly for 5 months whilst kept mainly in solitary confinement, and that he was certainly cut off from any access to information, and that he was tortured by a cadre of very experienced guards, some of which had military backgrounds and employed military techniques. This, of course, has to be determined, and I have been fighting to get some investigation into that. Martin Bryant had a defence lawyer, and I'll use that term very loosely, because his defence lawyer was anything but. After the 5 months, John Avery, who was Martin Bryant's defence lawyer, went to his mother and said, look, you've got to get your son to change his plea to guilty. So he manipulated her into going to the prison, and his mother, who confessed this in her book, My Story, said that she said to Martin, unless you change your plea to guilty, you'll never see me or your sister Lindy again. Once again, it casts aspersions on the guilty plea. So after the supposed confession and guilty plea, Martin was given a sentencing trial and sent to prison. And to this day, 29 years later, no one has been able to interview this person to get the words straight from his mouth. No journalist. All the mainstream media in Australia have been very quick to demonise Martin Bryant. He was the perpetrator. They've totally ignored any of the ton of evidence that contradicts the mainstream story, and he is the poster boy for evil in Australia, but not one of them has interviewed him in 29 years. So he has been locked away. The evidence, the hard evidence, the ballistics, the forensics, the fingerprints, everything that could comprehensively prove beyond reasonable doubt in a court of law the guilt or innocence of the party involved has been locked down, initially with a Hobart Supreme Court ban of 30 years. And then in 2016, a decision was made to digitise the entire data resource on Port Arthur Massacre and put it under the highest restrictive category, Chief Police Commissioner's eyes only, for a further 75 years. So none of this evidence will be released until 2091. By then, you, me, and everyone associated with Port Arthur will be dead. So that is...
Yeah, exactly. And now, sorry, I have a question, Paul, about Martin. One thing I did read is that his IQ level, he was operating at a very low IQ level, and his mentality was like close to that of an 11-year-old or something like that.
That's correct. That's another misnomer with the judicial process that was applied with the Port Arthur massacre. Martin Bryant had an IQ of 66, which makes him the equivalent of an 11-year-old child. He had distinctive physiological and psychological disadvantages, you could say, and challenges. And he was placed on a guardianship order by the Hobart Supreme Court in 1993, 3 years before the Port Arthur massacre, rendering him mentally incapable of handling his affairs. So there were a lot of problems with some of the investigative processes. He was, for instance, interviewed by 2 police officers without legal counsel present, even though he asked, should I have my lawyer here? And was told, oh, he knows. Nor did he have a legal guardian. So in essence, this was a man with a diminished mental IQ and certainly a lot of psychological issues and almost like a childlike innocence and gullibility, who was convicted without trial and thrown in jail for the rest of his life. Now, Martin Bryant was arrested at the later aspect of the shooting, which was a siege that took place at a bed and breakfast cottage. However, my investigations, and anyone who wants to dig deep and look at the WASP files will find that there is no hard evidence linking him to the majority of the shooting which took place at the Port Arthur historical site itself. And in essence, nobody was killed during the later part of the siege. It's very complex, but the notion was that he was set up as the classic patsy, lured to a location and kept there, and basically a professional and psychopathic killer was sent in to undertake the massacre that took place at the historic.
Pause, Shelley. Yes, like in any true crime, right? If someone pleads guilty prior to trial, no need for a trial. So not just a air quotes confession like Richard Allen bullshit, but an actual guilty plea entered to the court. No trial. Very like signed, sealed, delivered, right? And more sort of concerningly, I guess, because that's just the process of the court. Thank you, Steph. That's just the process of the court, but court system. But in Australia, when something like this happens, there needs to be either or a coronial inquiry or a royal commission. That's our system into the event. One was never done. Similarly, the Bondi Beach massacre has already been shut down. There will be no coronial inquiry, and there will be no royal commission. I'm just going to go back to we'll keep going, but I'm going to go back to also, and I forgot to talk about it when it was mentioned, but do you remember when they said in that the guy that we watched that little 8-minute clip, the sort of the summary, the Too Long Don't Read, and he said that the Broad Arrow Cafe was demolished very soon after the massacre. Okay, so you remember how at the UVU, Utah University, within 2 days, they were paving over the assassination site. One of the key, also if you remember, and we'll get to it, but the 22 body morgue truck that the Tasmanian government commissioned prior to this, and there was like 4 or 5 serious suspicious deaths in Tasmania a year, right? They did not need a 22 body morgue truck. It was sold very soon after it was needed on this day. So one of the key indicators of false flag events is that the crime scene is cleaned up, repurposed, demolished very soon after. And I don't really want to open this can of worms, but the Trump assassination attempt, they hosed that shit down real quick. It makes sure that there's no way for there to be any proper gathering of proper evidence or coming back to it after the fact when shit is squirreled away, cleaned up, demolished, swept under the rug. So yeah. Back to it. I love you all so much.
Site, who then made their way back to the cottage where Martin was kept, and then he was drugged and then left to die, and the place was set alight. Martin Bryant, however, did not burn to death. He woke on fire and ran from the building and was arrested by the Special Operations Group police, quote, grinning and out with the fairies. So there is a lot of, to this day, Martin, in the only interview he did with police, has never admitted to killing anyone. On multiple occasions, he said, I was never at Port Arthur. He has a confused recollection of kidnapping somebody at gunpoint. But in essence, there needs to be a much more thorough, detailed examination of the facts and a presentation of the hard evidence, the ballistics, the fingerprints that were on the casings and the discarded firearm magazine. All of that has never seen the light of day. There are so many questions with Port Arthur that I found myself on this journey. As I said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not an activist. I'm not a crusader. I'm not here to trivialise Port Arthur or sensationalise crime. But we have some very, very serious questions about this event. And to this day, it's a lockdown. No one can get the answers they need.
This sounds like it sounds like a terrible movie almost in a way, like the way that this is all orchestrated and how it's all worked out. It sounds like he was supposed to die, but he didn't. Wow, this is incredible. They had their patsy, they had this guy. Now you said, let's go into the actual Port Arthur massacre. I'd like to go into that. I'd like you to walk us through what happened. And for those who are listening or watching this, I'm going to give you like a viewer discretion in advance, because I'm sure there's going to be some details here that maybe a bit disturbing.
Yeah. So as I said, it happened 29 years ago in 1990. A wonderfully antiquated historical tourist site down in Tasmania, which is a little island off the mainstream of Australia. The Port Arthur Historic Site was the site of the original convict settlement, where a lot of people were sent from England and from Australia, and it was a horrendous place to be interned as a prisoner. There was a lot of brutality. And many decades later, it's become a historical site that is visited by people from all over the world. So on Sunday, the 28th of April, 1996, on a nice little sunny day down in Tasmania, a gentleman walked into a cafe with the equivalent of an AR-15 rifle, which was actually a civilian version known as the Colt SP1. Contrary to popular belief, AR does not stand for assault rifle. It stands for Armalite rifle. And it is a civilian rifle, even though it has the same configuration as the classic M16 rifle that was used predominantly during the Vietnam War.
Hi, YouTube. Just letting you know that the weapon being shown on screen is we are restreaming content. This is not happening on my channel. For the record, for educational purposes only, no threat to being made of violence. We do not condone violence at all at Camp Shorty. Thanks for your attention to this matter.
This is a semi-automatic rifle. It doesn't have select fire and fire fully automatic weapons. Sorry, fully automatic.
Put it down, sir. You're freaking me out.
It has a cyclopedic stock.
Fuck, I'm going to skip through this. Wait.
To give.
We're not. I can't risk it.
So a bit of history in regards to that. In 1996, firearm laws were reasonably loose. You still required to have a license and to be a fit and proper person. As early as 1991, certain states in Australia had much loose gun laws. So Tasmania was renowned for having fairly loose gun laws where you could purchase high-powered semi-automatic rifles. Same with Queensland. There was an attempt as early as 1991 by the federal government to impose a nationwide regulation of firearms, and all of the states were balking at this. Our New South Wales Premier in 1987, Barry Unsworth, was famously quoted as saying there will never be uniform gun laws in Australia until there's a massacre in Tasmania. Lo and behold, not too long after, we had a massacre in Tasmania. Famous anti-gun advocate Roland Brown also stated there will be a massacre in Tasmania. This all happened before Port Arthur. So A gentleman went into the tourist site, drove down through the toll booth, and tried to park near the water's edge. And the intended target was a ferry that would contain tourists that would go across to a little historical island called the Isle of the Dead. The Isle of the Dead had old gravestones, and it was a little island just off the mainland of Tasmania. On board that ferry that day would have been approximately 80 US tourists. There was, however, a bit of a glitch where they had changed the schedule of the ferry. So the gunman had parked down near the water's edge and tried to get onto the ferry. But it had left half an hour earlier. So there was a change of plans, and the gunman went into a crowded cafe called the Broad Arrow Cafe, where people were eating their lunch, where staff members were on site, and opened fire. In a very short amount of time, within the confines of that cafeteria, he killed about 20 people. There was an enormous controversy because this was a government-run site, and there was a fire exit door. 6 people lost their lives directly because the fire exit door had been nailed shut. The survivors, and particularly the Port Arthur employees who lost loved ones on the day, were outraged and were adamant in calling for a coronial inquest once again, if only to examine why a fire exit door, a crucial aspect of a government-run site or any site, was nailed shut. There was an attempted cover-up where they said the lock was inoperable, but that was proven to be false, and it was later found that a local maintenance person had nailed the door shut to prevent people from shoplifting from the cafeteria. However, 6 people died crowded trying to get out through the fire exit door and was shot down mercilessly.
So some of you who came in a bit late, thank you all for being here, but I mentioned that we're going to do at least 2 parts to this Port Arthur series. And gee, I didn't know there was that prompt. That's pretty cool. Yikes. Some of the prompts are working from Stream Elements, some are not. Very frustrating. But so just talking about that door being nailed shut, that apparently supposedly was there was a shoplifting problem in the cafe, so it was nailed shut. But when we get to the second part of this series and we watch the testimony from Wendy, I can't remember her surname. I'm sure some of you can clarify for me. It's just horrific what she's so brave. Like I'm not a hugely soliloquy. I'm a spiritual person. I'm not a religious person, and I was sending all of my kind, loving, empathetic energy to Wendy when I was watching what we're going to watch in the next one. It's going to take some deep breaths to watch that. She's so amazing. But she talks about those people that were piled up against the door trying to escape. Oh, just awful.
The gunman then exited the cafe and made his way towards the buses, firing indiscriminately in the local exterior area. And a lot of people thought that it was a historical reenactment, that there were muskets being fired. So people didn't know what was going on, and they were approaching the site thinking it was a reenactment. The gunman killed people on and around the tourist buses. He then took his vehicle and exited the Port Arthur site, stopping along the way on the exit road, and he murdered a young mother and her 2 children. Nanette was the mother, and her 2 daughters, Alana and Madeline, who were 6 and 3, and he shot them down. One of the little girls tried to run around a tree to escape, and he chased her around the tree and shot her dead. He then drove the vehicle to the toll booth, and there was an unusual altercation there where he'd had some interaction with some people in another vehicle before shooting 4 people there and commandeering their vehicle. He then drove this vehicle out to a service station, kidnapped a couple, shot the woman in the car, but then took her boyfriend and put him in the boot of the car, made his way back to a little bed and breakfast called Seascape Cottage, where a siege then was undertaken throughout the evening and early into the next morning, when the cottage burnt down and Martin Bryant ran out on fire and was arrested by the police. That, in essence, was the breathtaking scale of the assault that took place at the Port Arthur site and the surrounding areas. And as I stated, 35 men, women and children murdered, 28 people injured. And it was the biggest mass shooting at the time. It sent shockwaves throughout Australia and around the world. The weapons that were used was, as shown before, was the Colt SP1 semi-automatic rifle, which fires, in essence,
Sir,
a .223 caliber.
not again. Oh, my God.
Round. Fairly well known in the States because we know the AR-15 uses a .223, and there've been
stressing
quite
me out,
an amount of mass
Paul.
shootings using this particular type of caliber and variant of firearm. At some point, the shooter also used an older firearm known as an L1A1 or self-loading rifle, which used a much higher caliber, which was the 308 or the military version, which is 7.62 by 51.
Jesus.
It's obviously
Put it
much
down.
larger than the .223. Has a greater range and certainly a lot more.
That's a similar caliber weapon to what they a 30-06, right? What they reckon Charlie Kirk was shot by. Stop it now. I don't even know about weapons or what's the word? Ammunition. But I know that's bullshit. The testimony that we'll get from Wendy in the next episode describes, and trigger warning, describes absolute decimation of the victims, the absolute massacre of the physical of the people in that cafe that she walked herself into. She's such a brave woman. When you start to draw these parallels, like you start to make these connections that even though many experts and non-experts, just regular gun users in America, have commented that there's no way that Charlie Kirk was shot with a 30-06. When you hear the testimony from Wendy, the retelling of her experience on that day and since, who was shot with a very similar size, dimension, ammunition, were obliterated. Like it. Anyway, carry on.
Damage when it is used against people. So there were two rifles that were fired. There was a semi-automatic Daewoo shotgun with a 10-round magazine that was discovered in the boot of the car. There were strong indications that in the cafeteria the shotgun was fired, that there were victims with pallet damage, clear pallet damage. However, the ballistic expert who had done an examination of the site omitted any firing of a shotgun, strangely. And there were some questions about why there was no mention of pallet damage. One of the surgeons at the Hobart Hospital, Dr. Wilkinson, had stated that everywhere we looked, we found pallets.
And Wendy also testifies or details that the victim, some of the victims, she came across. Am I muted? No. Had pellet damage, but the official narrative is no pellet damage.
There's a big difference between pellets and shrapnel that's caused by the shredding of, copper casings from rounds. So it's one of many discrepancies and anomalies that have not had a thorough, detailed investigation. Same with the guns. There is a lot of question as to where those guns came from, how they made their way to Tasmania and into the arms of someone who would then use them against the civilian population. Martin Bryant did not have a gun license, nor did he have a driver's license. And yet he was supposedly in possession of these high-powered semi-automatic weapons. Where else can I go? There's so much to talk about. It's such a huge event.
Yeah, I know there's like so many different avenues that we could go. Like, I don't know. There's so many discrepancies. I don't want to say discrepancies, just coincidences. Actually, that might be a better word. Like the purchasing of the morgue truck. Them predicting, like you said, like the governor's predicting that, or the premier's predicting that there's going to be some sort of action happening in Tasmania. The police taking so long to show up as well. I would love for you to just to dive into like start breaking these down. Like this happened, and this is strange. This happened, and this is strange.
Let's talk about the coincidences. So to give you some idea, there was some precedent to gun control and massacres. In 1987, in the state of Victoria, there were 2 massacres. One was known as the Hoddle Street shooting, and the other was known as the Queen Street shooting, where once again we had 2 lone gunmen who had taken high-powered semi-automatic rifles and opened up on the civilian population. As a result of those shootings, the Victorian Premier at the time, John Cain, had implemented a ban on high-powered semi-automatic rifles. This could certainly have then been considered as a precedent for why the federal government said, well, we want to have uniform gun laws because they're all disparate throughout the states. Lo and behold, we had the Port Arthur Massacre. As a result of the Port Arthur Massacre itself, our then newly elected Prime Minister, John Howard, who'd only been in the job for about 2 months just prior to Port Arthur, though he was also instrumental in drafting legislation to ban semi-automatic high-powered rifles and pump-action shotguns and the like as early as 1991. So this information was drafted federally. Constitutionally, federal laws cannot overturn state laws. That's why they were trying to get a uniform gun ban. After Port Arthur, our Prime Minister was then lauded as the man who got it done, who then forced all of the states into a uniform ban on high-powered semi-automatic rifles and pump-action shotguns and even semi-automatic 22 rifles, rabbit rifles for people who may not know. So we had the most extensive gun control legislation introduced very quickly after Port Arthur, and there was a gun buyback in which quite a lot of firearms were removed from society that were, considered to be something that civilian population should not own or hold. As a historical aspect to gun control in Australia, gun homicide was on the decline before Port Arthur. It was not going up. Yes, we had the massacres, which caused the shock. But since then, and since the gun bans, there are more firearms in Australia than there was before Port Arthur. So we can no longer own high-powered semi-automatic rifles. Well, you can, but they're very, very heavily restricted, very certain circumstances. Pump-action shotguns you cannot own. Semi-automatic 22s you cannot own. You can, however, have handgun licenses that include semi-automatic handguns. And there is some sophisticated firearms now like straight-pull shotguns. You can own pump-action high-powered rifles, just not semi-automatic rifles. To give you some context on the hysteria that is presented by the authorities and the media in relation to gun crime in Australia. In 2000, there's an estimated 4 million registered firearms in Australia out of a population of 28 million. The media are quick to decry that there is also anywhere between 350,000 to 1 million unregistered firearms in Australia. If you put that together, that's a total of nearly 5 million guns. That's a lot of guns in a population of 28 million. So the question has to be asked, why aren't we being shot in droves? We have gun crime, but in 2023, the homicide rate was 247. Of those, 27 were gun-related. And of those, the majority were criminals using guns against other criminals. We do not have a gun problem in Australia. We have a media hysteria problem. I don't have a problem with sensible gun control. We have some of the strictest gun control laws in the world. You have to lock the ammunition separately. You can't store them together. You have to have a safe. You have to have your fingerprints taken, all of that stuff. That's fine. But there is just an agenda. There is an agenda to remove firearms from the world population, and certainly Australia was a test case for that. So that's to dive into the coincidences. As I said, there's so much to talk about, so I'm just going to ramble. People often say they use the defense of Occam's razor. They can say, look, you can try and be a conspiracy theorist, but the logical determination of events is due to that notion of Occam's razor, that the most simple solution is the one. My answer to that is synchronicity. When you have coincidences, you can say, oh, there's a coincidence. When you have a multitude, and I mean a multitude of coincidences, one after the other, that seem to suggest an alternative determination, then you have synchronicity, which is the likelihood that there is another determination. So to quickly go through some of those, we spoke about the politicians who were proclaiming that there would be a massacre in Tasmania prior to. Could have just been, them thinking out loud. The infamous morgue truck, which you mentioned before, was a 22-person refrigerated morgue truck designed to transport bodies in Tasmania. At the time that it was commissioned and built for the state government, people were incredulous. They were like, why do we need this? Tasmania is lucky if we have 3 or 4 deaths a year. Victoria and New South Wales, which have much higher death rates, don't have such a vehicle. So this morgue truck was built and commissioned, and lo and behold, when Port Arthur erupted, there was conveniently a large refrigerated morgue truck to be able to transport the bodies to the state coroners. You would think that they would then hang on to that vehicle afterwards and say, well, it was very valuable, thank God we had it. That was not the case. It was sold by an ex-Special Operations Group police officer, Chris Wright, as the vehicle that was used at Port Arthur. To this day, it's disappeared. No one knows what happened to it. Some other coincidences. At the time in Tasmania, there was a conference that was held for trauma surgeons from all over Australia, dealing specifically with being able to deal with trauma, mass trauma, an influx of mass trauma victims. So they were there in Hobart on the day. So when there was a need suddenly for trauma surgeons to deal with mass trauma, there was a huge amount of them conveniently in Hobart. Media. There was a media conference in Hobart with over 700 journalists from all over the world. So it was like, oh, we need media to cover this event. They were bussed in by the truckload. 700 journalists who were literally escorted on to cover the event. The Hobart Hospital itself had just implemented.
Simi, thank goodness you are paying attention. I'll do this one for everybody. Wait. As thank you, Ruthie, thank you, Hope, thank you, Vixie. You're all in the draw. What are we doing? Here we go.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
Did that play all in all? I'll play it again.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
It is suspicious, isn't it? And let's do this one too. Wait. Oh, what's my stupid... Ah! Oh my God. I just clicked some random thing. Now it's doing weird shit. Okay. I'm bad at this. Ay. Pear, wait. Pear, you're going in the drawer as well. Thank you so much. I put Ruthie in the drawer for her long-term support. Thank you so much. You're in the drawer. Ah! Oh my God. We are professionals. No wonder Stream Elements says no. Hey, while I'm paused, that seems like as good a time as any to go to this. I was tossing up Shots Fired too soon, even though it's a love song, a breakup song. And then I thought, music is not a weapon. Also, maybe a little bit insensitive. So as funny as that might be, dark humor, I'm going with something else. It's a song we don't play often. So wait, oh my goodness, why now am I stupid? I don't know what I don't even know if I can play music. Wow, it's done something weird. Hang on. Okay, now I can do it. Hang on. There's been weird stuff happening in my background. Nearly your short anniversary. Laura, I'll put you in too. Thank you so much. Oh look, I can't scroll now in my music. Hang on, why? That's very weird. That's suspicious and frustrating. I clicked some weird shit. Wait, I'll have to play a song. Dumb and annoying. This happened once before, and Ms. What the Fuck had to play the music because I couldn't move around my media assets. It's not going to sound as good, but I promised a song and I can't scroll up in that bar now. Hang on. Pause. Walk and talk chat. We are professionals, proving it time after time after time. Hang on. I'll wait, but I do got to do this. Jeez Louise. Why am I like this? Hang on. Dogs are having a drink of water. It's all happening. Where are we going? Playlists. Where is it? Baby Shorty? No. Miss Shorty music? I don't know. Good God. Such a professional. Look, I was born this way. Here it is. Go to the full playlist. You know it won't sound nearly as good. But I was going to go with, it's a new one. New. I might change my mind as I. You know what? No, I'm going to play. Let's play Ms. What the Fuck's The Fix is in because it's bloody good video and it's a bloody good song and a stroll down memory lane. I'm sorry the sound isn't going to be as good. It's just not. Apologies. Oh.
A freak bizarre, it's discombobulating. Blurred lines and truth revealed, darkness congregating. Mobster lawyer, chilling to the bone. What on earth would you not do to bring fiasco home? The fix is in bad actors in the light. Some things we just know, even when the wrong ain't right. The fix is in not worry about a thing. Good prevails, so let me hear you sing. But none of it bears relevance. Parsing out the parlance, 47 down to 10. What's done is done, and here we are again. Some things we just know, even when the wrong ain't right. The fix is in, not worry about a thing. Good prevails, so let me hear you sing. So have faith, justice will prevail. Can you feel it? The thinning of the veil. Black, white, day, night, the Commonwealth derails. Sit down, motherfucker. Sit down, weasel demon. Hush now, talk is cheap. The universe sees what you're doing. Around the world, sending love and light to Karen Reed and John O'Keefe. Our outrage fuels the fight. The fix is in bad actors in the light. Some things we just know, even when the wrong ain't right. The fix is in, not worry about it, not a thing. Good prevails, so just let me hear you sing. It's disgusting, it's exhausting. But if she can't do it, so can we. We ain't got no quit, justice prevails. Free Karen Reed.
Well, shit. I'm going to get all emotional. What the fuck has happened to that fucking Free Karen Reed movement? Don't go there on the Twitters. Very disappointing. Thank you, Mr. Poke, for hitting the like. Sit down, Weasel Demon. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Ms. What the Fuck, for an amazing video. We love you and we miss you. We hope you are feeling okay. Now, let's go back to this. Wait. Oh, goddamn. Dumb. I still can't scroll in my. Thank God I've got the backgrounds to be able to change. I can't play Nick in the raffle draw. I can't scroll in any way, shape, or form. Streaming is dynamic, but we are doing the raffle draw now, right? The board are eating their own. Correct. This is why we were never a free Karen Reid channel, right? I was. If anything, I would call myself an Adelson channel, but not. I can't scroll at all in my media assets, Simi. I did dumb shit when I was playing that weird, that's suspicious soundbite, and I fucked it until the next stream. I don't know. I can't fix it. I'm not good at technology. Woos says, yeah, disgusting. So, disappearo. So, good luck, everybody. I can't even do a drum roll. I can do nothing. I'm going to pretend like I'm a professional. So whoever, Hoppy, I'm not doing this for you. She says, but isn't everything for me? I'm going to pull out one name. Can you hear me? Cool special effects, says Shelley. I've got one. We've got one. It's always quite the panic anyway when I'm trying to get it in time for. Thank you, Ruthie. Oh. Steph. Not rigged. No homo. Congratulations, Steph. I bet you she says, choose someone else. I will choose someone else if you say so, but I'm also sending you something. Bacon. Oh, hey. Steph goes, bullshit. Don't choose anyone else. You know what? I'm doing a second draw because people will think I'm just like it's nepotism at its finest. I'm doing another one because Happy New Year and Merry Christmas, and we had so much time off, and I love you all very much. Not to say that Stephanie doesn't deserve it. She is very much a beautiful contributor of her time, love, and energy. But people will think we're homo. I mean, we're married. I can't even play that clip. I got another one. Imagine if it's Steph again. It's not Steph again. But it is. Oh, Hedda. She'd be asleep at the moment. I will email her. So, Steph, pick something. I know you've got your eye on a lot of stuff on the merch store. And I will also... Oh, wait. Can you see what I'm sticking them to? It's my... Wait, you can't see. My retin-A cream for my skin. Well, before we go, yay, Hedda, yay. So we'll do another one in a couple of weeks. All right. Thank you all for your love, support, feralness. I love you all very much. Before we go back to the documentary, Buster, for goodness sake, you know how I spoke yesterday? If you weren't here for our Health is Wealth stream, it was great. Love, so much fun. I love you all very much. But I spoke about DSMO and how I've been putting it on my skin, which feels weird. It feels counterintuitive. But holy shit, my skin is so soft and smooth. My pores are getting like it's tightening up my pores. It was a great stream. Thank you for being here. So if nothing else, if it's pure vanity that hurtles you towards getting some DSMO, then thanks, man. It was a good one, wasn't it? Nice and tight. Yes. So get some DSMO if for no other reason, even if you don't have cancer, even if you're not vaccine injured, even if you don't have chronic aches and pains, even if you don't have macular degeneration. Even if you don't have dementia, just so you look pretty and soft, do it. Okay, now let's go back to this documentary. I hope you've all had some lightness, some uplift, so a little walk down memory lane with a bit of Miss Shorty music, and then some throwing money back at you. Now, let me find where I was up to. Is it this one? Correct. Let's do it. No sound effects, no StreamYard music, boo.
Implemented a Code Brown, literally in the days before Port Arthur.
Yeah.
Code Brown is the hospital protocol for dealing with an influx of mass trauma victims. So very conveniently and luckily, they had a Code Brown where they were able to have a system in place ready to deal with an influx of dozens of victims, which is what they had. Other coincidences was that the only two police officers close to the Port Arthur historic site, whose job it was to close a swing bridge that connected the site to the mainland in the event of emergency, were lured away by a phone call where there was a report of drugs that were stashed on the other side of the island, 30 minutes away. So the two police officers went over to investigate, found a jar of soap powder. While they were over there, bang, 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 the shooting took place at the Port Arthur historic site. Never been determined who made that call. Pretty clever for someone who had an IQ of 66 to lure the only two police officers away. So there were many, many more coincidences. There was also some refrigerated storage boxes to store cadavers, in essence, and this was convened and manufactured. And the coroner at the time from the Melbourne group that had constructed these boxes had put out a statement saying that they were particularly impressed with the Nelson brothers for constructing these refrigerated cadaver boxes ready for the incident. That person's name was Stephen Parry, and people raised eyebrows and said, it's an unusual thing for you to say.
That is an extremely unusual thing to say. You know, when you look at these things and you have like just one, like let's say like you said, they did the Code Brown, and if it was only that, you could be like, wow, that was pretty serendipitous that, we were prepared for that. But when you just keep adding them up, all concerning this one incident in this one location, there is something crazy going on. And if you could go into the police as well, like they were like 6-hour delay because they're at a barbecue or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that was another outrageous event where the shooting took place at approximately 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon. And if you can imagine the carnage inside the Broad Arrow Cafe where 20 people had been shot with a high-powered rifle. A lot of the survivors and the Port Arthur employees were trying to deal with this situation of hundreds of panicked tourists to provide triage and emergency care for hours. The police had converged en force from the mainland of Australia.
Oh, Juju, sorry, my brain conflated you for woos. My bad. Where is it? Juju, there. Sorry, Juju. Silly me. That's what you get. I've got my mental age is it's like 15, but anyway. Hi, Juju.
They sent in Special Operations Group police. There were water police, and rather than coming to Port Arthur, they were kept at a nearby site called Tirana, and ostensibly they were told it's too dangerous to go in, even though there was Special Operations Group police there. They were kept there for 6 hours. And yes, they had a barbecue. So the poor people that were at the Port Arthur site who were in a panic mode trying to deal with this were left alone for hours. There was no containment of the crime scene. People were traipsing all throughout the crime scenes. In some cases, people were souveniring bullet casings off the ground. The carnage, a very outspoken and adamant and courageous young woman by the name of Wendy Skua, who was a Port Arthur employee, was performing triage on the victims covered in blood and just yelling, where's the help? Where is the ambulances? Where are the police? Some hours later, a helicopter landed and there were two unarmed constables who were the first police on the site. They were just converged upon by people in horror and panic, and they were trying to control this situation. So something like 6 hours later, the police roll in armed to the teeth. But by then, the trauma that was done to the survivors was astronomical. And then it was discovered that the siege had commenced at the bed and breakfast cottage some kilometres away from Port Arthur, and the police had surrounded that property.
I don't know if you were here, or even if you weren't, the news item that I played at the very top of this stream said that there was a siege at 2:30, that the shooting started at 2:30. It was absolutely 1:30. Again, Wendy, the one of the many brave survivors, but she may well be one of the most brave and just, oh my God. She went to great pains at the start of her presentation, her talk to the I think, was it an RSL club, like a club of what do you guys call it? A V what do they call it? VFL? Same. To detail how she knew what time it was. There's recordings of her calls to the police and stuff. And I forget what else I was going to say about that. I wish he'd close his curtain, his window behind there. Let me see. No, it's gone. My brain. Anyway.
But it was a monstrous failure on the part of the police in terms of providing that initial forceful response. As we know in the States, when there's an active shooter, the edict is for police to go in hard and fast straight away and engage the shooter. We didn't have that.
This reminds me a little bit of Old 80, the school shooting, where the police stayed outside. They were too scared, and parents were trying to get into, like, get out of my way, I'll go in kind of thing. This has a lot of, it's very reminiscent of that as well. It's like, oh, we're scared, we don't want to go in.
Pause. I remember what I was going to say. The second part to that was, she talks about how helpless and suspicious, how helpless she and unsupported she and her fellow survivors who were dealing with carnage and trying to survivors who were there with their spouses, their relatives, and their friends were coming to this woman, Wendy, and saying, my husband, my sister, my fiance, they're inside the cafe, they're wearing this and that. Can you please tell me if they're dead or alive? The police should have been there. 6 hours. 6 hours. What the fuck? And it can't be excused that Australia wasn't, and we weren't, we still wouldn't be, well, maybe these days, but weren't equipped or experienced enough in this kind of incident to understand. This is like, it's basic stuff, right? 35 people died, and they knew immediately, and it should have only been at most, it should have 6 hours. It should have only been at most, like, the ambulances were there, started to arrive, I think, an hour and 30 after the calls were made to the police. The police should have been able to get there even from the furthest point, and Laura, if she's still here, can confirm or correct me on this. An hour and 15, racing. It's a very the roads to Port Arthur are very winding and one lane each way. But even police vehicles travelling at speed should have been able to get there. They did get there, but they were held back, as Paul just said, and were given a barbecue while they waited for the go-ahead. Like, what the fuck? What are we doing? You have to wonder why. Like, why would the powers that be, the authorities, excuse me, want to prolong the trauma of the survivors? There's so many questions.
This is your job. This is what you signed up for.
Yeah, I mean, I've studied a lot of those shootings, and I'm certainly aware of that particular shooting. And there was a lot of, shall we say, reassessment and reevaluation of police tactics in regards to active shooters after Uvalde. I mean, it was a catastrophic loss of life, and they should have gone in. They had body armor, they're armed, they're trained, they have ballistic shields, and that can prevent these things. They often say a good guy with a gun can stop a bad guy with a gun. Interestingly, with Port Arthur, there was a member of the public who had witnessed the shooting at the servery where he kidnapped the person and shot his girlfriend. and he was running around. He had a .22 rifle, but he had the ammunition stored separately. He was trying to protect his family, and he had the notion that he could have intercepted the gunman. But by the time he got the ammunition and got the firearm loaded, it was too late. With just a bit of an aside to the criticism that's often labelled at America in relation to their gun control, which I vigorously defend, because America is a totally different scenario to Australia. America has a constitutional right to keep and bear arms and to have a civilian militia in the event of a tyrannical government, in part because America had a civil war. Australia does not have a constitutional right to own firearms. We have a privilege. That privilege can be taken away at any point, and we do not have a right to use firearms for self-defence at all. There have been cases here where the crime is very much out of control at the moment. We have a lot of home invasions and carjackings, violent, with armed offenders. But if you dare to use any kind of weapon, particularly a firearm, you'll very quickly find yourself charged. I also know that when you consider gun homicides in America, something like 80% of gun homicides are related to African-American crime, gang crime. Not to be, point a racial finger. It's simply to state that if you remove that aspect from the gun statistics, and also things like suicides and accidental deaths, given the population of America, it puts some context on the notion of the firearm homicide rate. Yes, of course, mass shootings are a monstrous and horrific anomaly. But I'm one of those people that says we really need to ask why. Why some 18-year-old kid or somebody that's a trans kid?
Steph asks, so was there no type of security there, just being a popular site? I think there was someone at the gate, like an entry. This was a different time, yeah. Australia, it just wasn't. It was so out of the blue. There was someone, entering, taking, I guess, probably just documenting the people. Someone at the gate. And there was the Wendy that I will watch next time talks about a police officer that she'd known all her life. It's a very small, close community. He pulled up to the gatehouse where people were shot and killed, and turned around and drove away, and has never been heard from since in terms of media or public comment. No on-site medics. There were first aiders. Wendy was the head first aider of Port Arthur, and she'd trained many of her people, and she will talk about her first aid people having to triage dying people and the guilt she carries from that. And that police officer who turned around and drove away and didn't help, seeing the dead bodies at that gate at the entry to Port Arthur, to the site, had taken her, because she used to run the courses for the staff, for the tour guides, for the restaurant staff, etc., the cafe staff. He had taken her course 3 times and didn't help. Yeah, I mean, the world has turned many times. So they get into a bit of an interesting conversation here, which sort of broadens the scope a little bit. So I'm going to scoot back a little bit just to get the start of it.
Given the population of America, it puts some context on the notion of the firearm homicide rate. Yes, of course, mass shootings are a monstrous and horrific anomaly. But I'm one of those people that says we really need to ask why. Why some 18-year-old kid or somebody that's a trans kid will pick up a firearm and turn it on their fellow classmates. There are some much deeper sociological aspects of society that have been not examined thoroughly enough. It's too easy to blame the gun.
And personally, one thing that is not being dived into concerning these mass shootings is the use of pharmaceuticals. SRIs, I believe they are, which are like
SSRIs. Thank you. Good night, Christy. Thank you so much for being here. Lovely to catch the remainder on the replay. Thank you so much for being here. Sweet dreams. Sleep well. See you tomorrow night for another light, fluffy bit of content. Oy.
Antipsychotics. If we looked into this, Well, I do know the statistic that I believe it is 100% of all mass shootings these individuals have been taking these antipsychotics, which begs to differ. It's like, okay, so we have something that is consistent throughout. Why don't we look in there? But of course, we better not look there at all. That's what they want you to believe.
I'm very glad you brought that up. I've looked into all of those shootings going back as far as Charles Whitman, the Texas Towers sniper, and you're dead right. All of those people, I was looking for a common denominator, specifically with these young mass school shooters and mall shooters, and I think I found them. Generally speaking, they were Anglo-Saxons, they were white, they came from reasonably good homes. They had some minor issues, whether it was anxiety or a bit of peer group pressure or some bullying. They had a few minor issues, and then, of course, the aspect was that rather than get counselling and, evaluation for their conditions, they were prescribed these very, very dangerous and reckless antipsychotic and antidepressant medication. And if you dig into the side effects of those, in the initial stages of taking them, they can cause homicidal, suicidal urges and reckless behaviour. So these kids they've got a few issues. They get isolated. They get lonely. They sort of pull back from society to a certain extent. They are prescribed this medication. That loneliness turns to anger. And then, of course, they do have access to firearms. And then you've got a ticking time bomb. But there is certainly, and I'll say this 100%, fingers need to be pointed at big pharmaceuticals companies for the rampant increase in the prescription of these drugs. Prior to 1988, there were virtually no mass shootings in America. What happened in 1988, prescription of antipsychotic medication went up 400%. So there is a smoking gun, and it isn't the gun.
We're just going to pause because chat is bae, and I have to. I can't not address this genius in chat. So we said goodnight to Christy. And good night, Christy. And so, of course, Steph, the amazing, says, sweet dreams are made of cheese. Who am I to disagree? And then Vixie refined that into who am I to disagree? Oh, you guys. Steph, I fucking love you guys. Also, Simi barreled in with the hot take, not a hot take, before Paul got there. I love it. And then Shelley said, I made a cheese and meat house for Christmas. Charcuterie chalet and chef's kiss. So good. I made a pizza demagogue. Yikes. Thanks, guys. You're the best. Wait, what? I don't know what this is. A pizza demagogon. What's that? Please explain. Discuss. Okay. We're going back to it.
No, it isn't. And I just actually sat down with a psychotherapist, Jared Marzinski, who goes into quite details about SSRIs or SSRI. Sorry, please correct me if I'm wrong on that one. But he goes into quite a lot of detail about them. And yes, they are, one of the side effects is clearly suicidal tendencies and homicidal tendencies as well. And not only that, these drugs are meant to be taken in short amounts of time, but of course they're not. They are prescribed for lifetimes, and it is causing so much detrimental issues. And we've seen it. We literally have seen it. 100% of these shooters have been on one of these medications. And of course, we're just not going to look there. We won't look there. I do want to circle back to the Port Arthur shooting with Martin there. I would like to now kind of go into witnesses. What did the witnesses see? Because I do believe Martin was involved, but I don't think he was a lone gunman.
Yeah, I have virtually all of the witness statements. There is something like 400 of them. As I said, I've dug very deeply. What we have is a lot of contradictions where most people saw a young man in a dark coat with this very distinctive long surfy blonde hair.
Oh, this is interesting.
So most of the witness statements said that was the gunman. And in essence, the gunman had driven onto the Port Arthur historical site in a very distinctive yellow Volvo sedan with a surfboard bolted to the roof of the vehicle. When that vehicle was later on discovered abandoned at the toll booth, once the shooter had commandeered another vehicle and shot the occupants, Martin Bryant's passport was discovered in the glove box of the Volvo, hence linking him to the crime. However, we have some witnesses that one of the issues is that most of the people that witnessed Martin Bryant didn't know Martin Bryant. All they saw was a young man in a coat with long blonde hair. Conversely, there were people that did know Martin Bryant because he was a local figure who had grown up with him, knew him from when he was a child, who were there on the day, who stated that the shooter was not Martin Bryant. They have never been given their say in court, nor been interviewed by the media, because their stories contradict the mainstream narrative. I have two very good friends who were survivors from Port Arthur, one of them whom took a bullet in the throat, as I stated. Remarkable man. And he lay on the ground pretending to be dead and watched the shooter the entire time. He also stated that and this is in a witness statement, that he had watched the shooter enter the cafe. He told me that he seemed to be in the presence of two other individuals. His impression was they came as a group, that they went around, separated, that the person with the long blonde hair did a traverse at the cafe, came back in, started shooting, and shot my friend. And he stated categorically the person was not Martin Bryant, that he had a pock-marked, acne-scarred face and worker's hands, and Martin Bryant was renowned for having very smooth skin. There were many other witnesses who knew Martin Bryant that saw him on the day, even on the way down to the Port Arthur site, who said, I didn't recognise the person as being Martin Bryant. These people never got their say in court. The other issue is that some of the witnesses, we do know that, of course, during traumatic events, people can have different, they can be shocked and they can have different recollections as to the accuracy of statements. But they should have been called for an open trial to give their testimony. And because there hasn't been a release in the court of law with the forensics, the DNA, the ballistics, one interesting aspect to the shooting was that the shooter who went into the Broad Arrow Cafe was witnessed, and this is in statements, with a video camera. And that video camera was set up on the table that the shooter had sat at prior to taking out the firearm and shooting people, ostensibly to video the event. Now, this was witnessed, and there is also photographic evidence in the aftermath where they scan across the table where you see the gun bag, and very clearly next to the bag is a video camera. You would imagine that whatever was on that video camera would comprehensively identify the shooter's identity. That has never seen the light of day. It's never been presented in court. Was there a tape? Who's on the tape? Who owned the camera? This was more evidence, crucial evidence, that has never been tendered that could identify the shooter. The ballistics expert.
Fucking hell. Such a professional. Yeah, muted. Thanks. Here we go. Yeah, he's still alive. So this is Shelley's Charcuterie Chalet. So good. And here's another picture. Yum. Was it hard? Did you find it hard to dive into that? Look, it's got trees. It's got trees, broccoli trees. How that's a masterpiece, Shelley. How could you dig into that? I'm not muted now. It's just me. Where's this question? Anyway, so thank you, Shelley, for sharing. Let's go back and then I'll answer a question before I press play again. Share this tab instead. Hopefully it didn't fuck the sound. Now, no, people have ID. People have, where is it? Simi asked. We have people don't carry their passports. No, it's very strange. Where was it? Here we go. Question, Shorty. Do you all use a passport as ID or do you have an everyday card like we do? We have an everyday card. We have a license. Even then, a photo ID. Your dad dug in. Yes, it's very strange. Oh, Lainey, that's torture. God, thank God you got Camp Shorty to keep you company, but that is torture. Ugh, my flight has delayed another 2 hours. I've already been waiting here 4 hours for my connection. That's awful. I'm so sorry. That sucks. Okay. Hope says, I will be living in this rabbit hole for who knows how long. Thank you, Miss Shorty. You're very welcome. It's very weird. It's very weird. Wait, where's Jim Cox being helpful? What? Hit live. What? I'm confused. WASP files are brilliant. Yes. I've been dropping the channel link into the chat, and we will be using his resource as we move forward with this series. I might even drop him an email, Paul, and see if he'd like to come on. Cox is being helpful to chat. Yes, I might even give Paul a drop him a line and see whether he might come on. I don't know. We had Joe Tacopina. We had also Joe Donner. Thank you to Simi. We've had some pretty big name guests on Camp Shorty, despite our very small but fierce status in the YouTube world. So you never know, because
expert Gerard Dutton, who had convened the examination of the ballistics, was questioned as to whether there was any evidence linking Martin Bryant directly to the shootings at the cafe. Caused some consternation at the time, and the person was attempted to be evicted. He was asked the question again, and then he eventually stated there is no empirical evidence linking Martin Bryant to the Broad Arrow Cafe. This is the ballistic expert. So evidence, crucial evidence, that has never been tendered that could identify the shooter. The ballistics expert Gerard Dutton, who had convened the examination of the ballistics, was questioned as to whether there was any evidence linking Martin Bryant directly to the shootings at the cafe. Caused some consternation at the time, and the person was attempted to be evicted. He was asked the question again, and then he eventually stated there is no empirical evidence linking Martin Bryant to the Broad Arrow Cafe. This is the ballistic expert. So witnesses, yes, and some people are saying it was definitely him, and I don't discount that. As I said, I'm here to ask questions and explore. Was Martin Bryant the shooter? Could very well have been. But if you sort of say beyond reasonable doubt in a court of law, we don't have that surety. We just don't. And I think there's a lot of questions to be asked about what people saw, who they saw. There were different descriptions of other shooters with different coloured hair, all sorts of things. At the Seascape Cottage, which was where the siege took place, two police officers who both tendered statements saying that they saw a naked, dark-haired person running between the buildings. One of them thought that person was female. It's never been identified who that person was. The owners of the cottage...
Pause. So Ari, that woman, potentially woman, naked, excuse me, in my very cursory, because I've only just fallen down this rabbit hole, Hope, so we might go on this journey together, adjacently. This is what set me down the rabbit hole. Wait, walk and talk. So I've been doing a lot of research. It's so fucking heavy for our Pizzagate, and also further down the line, our Epstein survivors, the Survivor Sisters series. We will get there. It's just a lot. I'm trying to gather as much as I can before I go live with it. Hi. Now, so I was looking into a thread that was about, excuse me, Chris Cornell, Avicii, a few others, who all happened to commit suicide upon the impending release of their documentary about certain satanic Pizzagate traffickers. And people were talking about Chris Cornell's wife being rather sus in that. and that she absolutely denounced the fact that he and decried, publicly stated that Chris Cornell was not about to release. Thank you, Vixie. Not about to release a documentary about these people, the Clintons and Haiti. And people said in this thread, the wife is sus. And someone said, yeah, like the girlfriend of Martin Bryant, also sus. And that's where I went, wait, what? That was my record scratch moment. That's where I went, false, because then I followed that thread. Yep. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Yeah, he had Martin Bryant apparently had a girlfriend. We'll get there. Who actually seemed like ostensibly seems like she was quite pretty and kind of not 66. Not that you can judge anybody's IQ by their appearance. I mean, you can with some people, but we will go. I haven't had time to go there yet. Like my waking hours are so full of research. I cannot stress how much work I do behind the scenes to try and get enough knowledge and understanding and full context and links. Not to be able to present to you content to which I can speak with enough gravitas to not sound like as much of an idiot as I am. So we'll get there. We will get there, though. I have a feeling the WASP files will delve into it. So I just thought that was noteworthy to pause there when Paul mentioned this naked running. I know nothing. I know nothing. That when Paul mentioned that I haven't seen any conclusions or nexus drawn between that reported naked, possibly dark-haired woman, except that this girlfriend of Martin Bryant had dark hair, kind of here, like a 90s hairstyle, the photo I've seen of her at least, which made me go, So.
Which were an elderly couple dating between the buildings. One of them thought that person was female. It's never been identified who that person was. The owners of the cottage, which were an elderly couple, David and Sally Martin, were ostensibly murdered prior to Port Arthur. And they were found in the burnt remains of the building. So the story was that prior to Port Arthur, the shooter had gone to Broad Arrow Cafe, murdered the couple, and driven the Volvo into the site. So going back to what you said about the identity and the witnesses. So what we do have is Martin Bryant's Volvo, Martin Bryant's supposedly owned firearms, his passport.
Remember, he didn't have a license.
There were some very interesting interactions that took place during the siege. There was a police negotiator having a phone conversation with Terry McCarthy, who I've spoken to at length, Sergeant Terry McCarthy, who was the police negotiator. He said the conversation was weird. The person on the other end of the phone was calling themselves Jamie, was not identifying as Martin Bryant. He said he was acting in a strange manner, as though he was reading from a script. He was saying things like, "Oh, how are you, Jamie? Oh, I'm okay, like I'm on a Hawaiian holiday. Oh, I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, I don't know myself really either." Just odd sort of communications. At one point, and this is very important, during the conversation where Jamie, who is Martin Bryant, had been identified as Martin Bryant, was talking amiably with Terry McCarthy, there were 20 gunshots heard in the background. Someone else was firing from the cottage. The police tried to explain this away as coughs in the transcript. They were independently verified as being shots from an SKS semi-automatic rifle. Someone else was in the cottage shooting whilst Martin was literally on the phone saying, "Oh, I'm making a cup of tea for the hostages and I'm going to go and they've got some eggs and salad here and I'll make..." He was having this conversation. You very clearly hear gunshots in the background. So the notion, going back to identity and the Volvo and the passport, at some point, Jamie wouldn't tell the negotiator his name, but he rattled off his passport number. And he said, "I know it so well because I've done lots of traveling." Lo and behold, they find the passport. The alternative narrative, which I've examined in the WASP files, if it wasn't Martin Bryant, what was the scenario and who was the shooter? In essence, consider the notion that Martin was lured to the Seascape cottage to take part in a counter-terrorism exercise to play the role of Jamie, and that they sent in a professional with his Volvo, with his firearms, with a wig to undertake the shooting. As far-fetched as that sounds, I filmed a trailer for the movie I wanted to do, which I still wish to do, called Wasp, the Port Arthur Massacre. And as an experiment, I had two different actors playing Martin Bryant, one of them obviously wearing a blonde wig. No one picked it up. So the notion was you can put a blonde wig on someone and everyone will just accept, oh, that's Martin Bryant. So, look, as I said, I'm scientifically minded. I've examined this. Could it have been Martin Bryant? Yes, it could have been. But we need the hard evidence. We need 100% to prove it. We need to hear from him. I've tried to speak to Martin Bryant. My letter to him was seized as a risk to prison security. I've sent another letter. They bin them.
Hi, Holly. 1996, so almost 30 years ago. Good to see you.
He doesn't get to talk to anybody. I've spoken to inmates that have spoken to him, and they all ask him, why did you do it? One of them told me that he agreed that he was involved, but he said, I didn't do Port Arthur. And when
Steph, oh my God. Steph, remember also that this is a young man, he was 29, who had the mental capacity of an 11-year-old, 66 IQ. So it makes sense that he'd be easily cajoled, convinced, and tricked into believing some nonsensical thing by people in uniforms, probably, right? Fucking hell.
asked who did, he got very
Them,
frightened apparently and said men in blue overalls. Take that for what you will, but this is a man that we need to hear from. This is a man who's been incarcerated and drugged and kept away from the public, locked down for 29 years. Charles Manson, Ed Kemper, John Wayne Gacy, the Unabomber, they all were able to give testimony. We were able to hear from their lips, not in Australia. This man is persona non grata. I can understand people being upset and saying we don't want to hear from this guy, but his identity as the shooter at Port Arthur, in my opinion, has not been determined.
Because the media has already painted the picture, and they've created this villain, and Australia hates this villain, and it's some people would rather just see him burn than hear anything. But that's what the media has done, and we know that the media has been weaponized as of I don't want to say as of late. For the last 30, 40 years, the media has slowly become weaponized. And if we look at, I believe it's Operation Mockingbird by the CIA, where they infiltrate the media and take it over. They admitted to this. They never admitted to stopping it. The media has been taken over. We've lost investigative journalism. I remember when, used to watch 60 Minutes, and they did actually quality stuff, and they investigated stuff. Like W5 used to investigate stuff, and it was amazing. Now it's these fluff pieces that it's just, we want to orchestrate how you think or what you think. And that is what's happening more and more with the media. And I just had to bring up a couple more things here. When you talked about the passport, I kind of chuckled a little bit. I laughed, and I don't mean to be, disrespectful or anything, but I've seen this before. I've seen someone find a passport before. Was that 9/11 where they discovered passports? And look at here's our hijackers. It's too convenient. And you said for him to rattle off.
Things were pulverized into dust, but there's a passport.
Yep, clear as day. We have the passport, and yeah, and then we can. That's exactly, there are patterns, and for him to rattle off his passport number, it's almost too obvious. It's too. It's terribly written. And I do want to talk about something. So I want to focus that he had the mentality, an IQ of 66, mentality of 11-year-old. But it sounds like these murders were lethal, like methodical, lethal, and with precision. How can someone who has an IQ of 66 be able to conduct some of these murders, with such lethality?
Yeah, definitely. There is very distinct witness statements that contradict the nature of the shooter and the manner in which they carried out the massacre. And Martin Bryant's evidence challenges both psychological and physiological. Of course, a lot of people say, look, it's close range. It's like shooting fish in a proverbial barrel. I've been a shooter for many years. I know a lot about firearms. It's one thing to shoot targets. It's another thing to engage live people in an assault situation. So even though 20 people were taken in the cafe at very close ranges with the
Pause, Steph. No, it's it's part of Australia, so you can cross the Bass Strait. Is that what it's called? Yes, the stretch of land. You can catch a plane, or you can catch a ferry across from the mainland to Tasmania, or vice versa. No passport. It's a state of Australia. Is it a state or a territory? Yeah, it's a state. Yes.
Colt SB1 or AR-15 equivalent. It's a remarkable feat for any one man to achieve. You've got the rush of adrenaline. You've got the unpredictable nature, the panic, the screaming, people doing what they're not supposed to do, people trying to intercept you, apprehend you. All of the witness statements stated that the shooter was calm, methodical. One of the witnesses, Neville Quinn, stated he was the best trained army man I've ever seen. His stance was unbelievable. There are a lot of reports that this shooter was very proficient with the use of those firearms. And Martin, conversely, was not. At one point, a person who supposedly was Martin Bryant went into a gun store with an AR-10.
Pause. I missed this while I was getting all those links. Vixie says, oh my God, that Dunblane shooting over here was 13th of March, 1996. That's when our gun laws changed. Okay, let's walk and talk on this one. I didn't realize that. So this happened on April 28, 1996, and Vixie is saying that Dunblane was on the 13th of March. So within, a month and a half, 6 weeks of each other. And your gun laws changed. Our gun laws changed. I wonder, Vixie, should we do a show? Should I type into my YouTube search bar Dunblane false flag? Because the Australian government 1,000,000,000% orchestrated this Port Arthur massacre to get public consent, buy-in for the gun buyback, and to change the laws. Your government had a mass shooting that it was the catalyst for your gun laws changing. Look, somebody, mods, please drop my title, because I'm pretty sure I'm also a detective. I'll look into that. Vixie, thank you so much for connecting that dot, because that's why global shorties, look at us. This is so awful, Steph. It is so awful, but far out, man. And now here we are there it is. This is me. They're all my titles. I'm forever becoming more of a court expert on so many things. False flags, add it to my list. Shelley says, I can see the red yarn connecting Dunblane and Port Arthur. 100%, man. Jeez Louise. Hi. It's been a minute. I love you. Hope you're doing all right. All right. Well, we're deep in this rabbit hole now. We're never climbing out. You're welcome. We found our feet, shorties. We found our feet.
Which is the 308 equivalent of the AR-15.
Let me go back a bit because
his stance was unbelievable.
Okay,
shooter was calm, methodical. One of the witnesses, Neville Quinn, stated he was the best trained army man I've ever seen. His stance was unbelievable. There are a lot of reports that this shooter was very proficient with the use of those firearms.
Here's
And
me,
Martin,
just like all official. There's a real reason why Stream Elements refuses to say that I'm a professional. I prove it relentlessly. Sorry. Okay. Whew. We're good. We've got this.
To apprehend you. All of the witness statements stated that the shooter was calm, methodical. One of the witnesses, Neville Quinn, stated he was the best trained army man I've ever seen. His stance was unbelievable. There are a lot of reports that this shooter was very proficient with the use of those firearms. And Martin, conversely, was not. At one point, a a person who supposedly was Martin Bryant went into a gun store with an AR-10, which is the 308 equivalent of the AR-15, and handed it over to the gun store owner, Terry Hills, and said, there's something wrong with this gun. And when the gun dealer ejected the magazine, he saw it was loaded, and then he was horrified to know that there was one up in the breech. The person had brought a locked and loaded AR-10 into a gun store and didn't know how to clear a breech or a magazine. Supposedly handed over a gun license in the name Martin Ryan, not Martin Bryant. So whether that was Martin or not with a fake license, I don't know. But by all reports, Martin Bryant was not proficient with firearms. And the scale of the massacre itself, you've got multiply staged events. And then you've got a pre-established siege location where there were many other firearms present as well that were used. The police officers that were decoyed away on the wild goose chase. Very, very clever for a person with an IQ of 66. During the shooting at the cafeteria, 30-round magazine was employed, but 29 shots were fired, and then the magazine was swapped over. It's a military tactic to always leave one in the breech in case someone tries to tackle you whilst you're engaging them. So you've got one ready to engage.
He didn't have a gun license or a driver's license. So I'm not sure if he could have, but he didn't have a gun license. And I don't know if y'all or you, Ms. Steph, were paying attention, but the weapon, the AR-15 that was used was actually registered to the Victorian Police. It was a Victorian Police rifle. So Victoria is on the mainland. This is a man, Martin Bryant, who didn't have a license to drive, didn't have a gun license to shoot, nor did he have any gun weapons training. Like, that's all weird. That's all suspicious. It is. Oh yeah, I got you, souls. It is. It's so much, because this is the second time I'm watching this. I've literally only just stepped my little tiptoes into this rabbit hole, and wild, huh? It is a lot. And plus, you guys are in chat. I'm not chatting. I'm not typing. It's very hard to concentrate, particularly as a moderator, and all new info. So yeah. It bears repeating on those things. So it's good to ask those clarifying questions, because then I can clarify and reiterate, and folks like Laura can help with stuff.
And then you can slap in another magazine. There were a lot of tactics during the siege at Seascape where lights were being turned on and off in different parts of the building. Shots were being fired from different angles.
Well, Steph, he didn't. Other than pleading legally guilty, there's no confession. He doesn't even. He's sort of. I don't think he's ever said that he had it. He's never confessed. He's only pled legally guilty. But I guess we'll get there, because there's so many question marks that can't be answered. That there is no nexus to so much of this. It's crazy, huh? Wild fucking shit.
Initial reports were that there was more than one shooter at the Seascape cottage from the police. And interestingly enough, the shooter was a person who, with impunity, murdered men, women, and young children. Once the shooting took place at Seascape, the police had surrounded the area and they were fired upon very accurately, but none of them were killed. At one point, Jamie, on the phone with police negotiator, had some kind of night vision device and said, "What I've noticed, man, is that one of your men is creeping up on the northeast corner. Can you tell him to move back, as I can see his scope? And I've got this laser scope here." He was warning the police to stay back. Why didn't he kill them?
Listen.
He could see them at night, the SOGs converging on the building, Special Operations Group police.
So this little snippet, do you not agree, chat, that the shooter /S was more than happy, willing, and able to shoot civilians, but when it came to, and I'm going to scoot back and play it again, but when it came to being surrounded at the Seascape cottage, whoever the shooter was, and remember, 35 people were shot brutally, including children, And there's testimony from that Wendy, who will watch in the next live stream about this, who one man wasn't killed. One man wasn't killed, or maybe it was the woman, I can't remember. Fuck, so many details, same. But was intentionally not killed purely, I think it was a woman, so she could watch two of her, like her spouse and her relative be shot in cold blood, but left that person, right? So if this was just a civilian and obviously with nothing to lose, if Martin Bryant had nothing to lose, wouldn't he go out all guns blazing, like, pun not intended, all guns blazing and shoot? Like, and also, why did he do this? If he was that crazy, if Martin Bryant was that like psychotic, deranged, crazy, hell bent on destruction, wouldn't he have taken out the cops too? So I'm going to scoot back because he warned, well, while Jamie was on the phone, he warned the people, the officers that were trying to come in that siege to closer to the cottage, I guess to raid it. I don't know the terminology. This is all new to me. Sort of. First day. Wouldn't he have just shot them too? Because what's he got to lose? Like, what has he got to lose? That's fucking suspicious, isn't it? I'm going to go back another one.
Very accurately, but none of them were killed. At one point, Jamie, on the phone with police negotiator, had some kind of night vision device and said, "What I've noticed, man, is that one of your men is creeping up on the northeast corner. Can you tell him to move back because I can see his scope? And I've got this laser scope here." He was warning the police to stay back. Why didn't he kill them? If he could see them at night, the SOGs converging on the building, Special Operations Group police. No police were shot. They were shot at very accurately. He had them pinned down, but nobody died. And instead of, employing that ruthless psychopathy against the police, nobody died. So these are, once again, coincidences and anomalies. Martin Bryant was certainly at Seascape Cottage. He was arrested there, but there are some, at one point he asked the police negotiator,
I forgot to mute, sorry.
"What's gone on at Port Arthur?" And the negotiator replied, "Oh, there's been people shot." And Martin's response was, "Oh, they weren't killed." Very odd thing for someone to say who, if they had been the person that had gone down there and killed 35 men, women and children, you'd pretty much know what you did. Whether he was lying, omitting, once again, needs to be determined, but there are a lot of questions. Just to go back a little bit on the media, one of the reasons we didn't have a trial was the atrocious behaviour of the media. So Martin Bryant had undertaken the siege at Seascape Cottage, which was taking place overnight after the shooting at the site and into the next morning. The very next day, the media had broken into his house in Clare Street, Newtown, and stolen a photograph of Martin Bryant. The very next day, all of the main papers had that photograph on their front pages with titles like, "This is the man and the face of the killer." He hadn't even been charged. That is against the law. And they were slapped across the wrist. They just prejudiced an entire trial and the guilt and determined the guilt of Martin Bryant. He hadn't even been charged. This was the morning after the siege. Every major newspaper carried his photograph with his determination of guilt. Now that's unlawful. And, of course, would have prejudiced any trial. Some of the witnesses who said, "Oh, it was definitely Martin Bryant," then came out and said, "Well, we might have been influenced by the photo that we saw in the paper the next day." So the whole world suddenly knew that Martin Bryant was the man. Never had his chance to be cross-examined in court ever. So if you read the transcript, all of this information is available on the WAS files. The one transcript of the interview that he had with the two police officers was fraught with problems. There were.
I think it was Steph a while ago asked, do the interviews were recorded? Yes. So we will go through that. I found, remember in that very first little YouTube short that I played in the beginning, there is footage of his interview. In fact, let me go back to that now. Let me see if I can find it. This one. Let's go back to this just to remind you. So like a sneak peek.
Shotgun. Stay inside. I'm pretty sure someone's got a gun. In fact, we're bloody positive of it.
There's somebody going crazy, shooting people here. There he is. He's over there. I can't believe it.
When you practiced shooting, where did you hold the gun?
On the left.
So you're left-handed?
I right with this hand.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, just move.
So if you held a gun, you would pull the trigger with your finger on your left hand?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. And did you ever practice shooting from the hip?
No, never.
Never? Martin, do you remember the 28th of April, Sunday the 28th of April, the shoot?
No, I don't. Was that the day I suppose everyone's talking about?
That's a shotgun.
Did you hear that? The very last thing he said was, so that's the day I guess everybody's talking about. I'm going to play it one more time.
Stay inside. I'm pretty sure someone's got a gun. In fact, we're bloody positive of it.
There's somebody going crazy, shooting people here. There he is. He's over there. I can't believe it.
When you practiced shooting, where did you hold the gun?
On the left.
So you're left-handed?
I right with this hand.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, just move.
So if you held a gun, you would pull the trigger with your finger on your left hand?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. And did you ever practice shooting from the hip?
No, never.
Never? Martin, do you remember the 28th of April, Sunday the 28th of April, the shoot?
No, I don't. Was that the day I suppose everyone's talking about?
That's a shotgun.
Was that the day I suppose everyone's talking about? So he could be ambidextrous. I'd be interested hi Nina. I'd be interested to see the correlation, if there is any, between IQ and ambidexterity. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like maybe being ambidextrous is linked in some way. This is pure speculation. That it's more likely that higher intelligence people are ambidextrous. Now, so these people recording as it happens were just civilians. Why were they so calm about it? Because it was a penal colony. Because these were interstate tourists and international tourists. You heard that was an American accent in that clip. A lot of them thought people were actually coming in towards the shooting, the sounds of the shooting, because they thought it was a reenactment. They didn't know. They'd never been there before. They were like, "Oh, gunshots! There must be like who would think?" So you know, Jim Cox. I wish I could play Learning Time. Thank you, sir. Yes, there is a significant correlation. Individuals on the autism spectrum. Hi. I'm not ambidextrous, including those with Asperger's, are more likely to be left-handed or mixed-handed than the general population. I am left-handed. I'm not ambidextrous. And thank you, sir. Look at us. God damn, if ever there was a moment for the Learning Time at Camp Shorty jingle, it's now. And my dumb self, my silly self, fucked the soundboard for today. Anyway. Let's go back to it.
There were technical glitches, stops and starts. Responses were inaudible. It was a mess. He had no legal guardian present. It should never have been permitted in court. The whole thing was just contradictory. And Martin was shown one of the rifles that was used during Port Arthur. And he said, "That's not one of mine. No, never seen that one before." Was he lying? He also demonstrated to the two police officers in the interview that he shot from the left hand. He was a left-hand rifle shooter. All of the witnesses stated that the shooter...
Jim, yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Asperger's is a mildly outdated term. no longer in the DSM-5. It basically, and I don't know if I think that's probably a mischaracterization, because traditionally, one of the key characteristics of someone who is Asperger's is someone who is on the higher end of the intelligence spectrum of autism, more likely to have spoken at an early age and to be very well read, very well versed, very articulate. So I have a feeling that probably, no offense, Martin Bryant, Sir Patsy, that he probably isn't Asperger's, but sometimes people, particularly if it's a wiki thing that hasn't been added to in a while, will use that because there is a stigma attached, often social stigma attached to using the term autistic. If anything, I'd say he'd be more like your low functioning autistic, which further reinforces the fact that there's no way this kid, he was 28, 29, could have done this. Hi, Stu, good to see you. Opal says, I grew up when nuns would smack my knuckles when I picked up a pencil with my left hand. Yeah. Well, Poke, I wish you could teach me how to crochet. Oh no, wait, because I can't knit or crochet, because everybody who's tried to teach me, except my dad, but he's a lefty, but he wasn't a very good knitter. He tried to teach me, and anyway, shall we? We're back to it. Learning time at Camp Shorty. Just play the jingle in your head. We've heard it enough times.
Fired from the right hand and didn't really shoot much from the shoulder, but fired from...
I'm going to go back, wait.
That's not one of mine. No, never seen that one before. Was he lying? He also demonstrated to the two police officers in the interview that he shot from the left hand. He was a left-hand rifle shooter. All of the witnesses stated that the shooter fired from the right hand and didn't really shoot much from the shoulder, but fired from the hip. So most of the killings that took place in the Broad Arrow Cafe were headshots, and they were taken firing from the hip with the AR-15, which had a scope on the top. For people who don't know that rifle, it only ejects, the ejection port is only on the right-hand side. If you were a left-hand shooter and you were shooting an AR-15, you would have brass and gas and powder residue sort of emitting from that port. However, if you then switch to a right-handed hip shoot, you wouldn't have that issue. But still, the accuracy, mainly headshots. And all of the witnesses said he was a right-hand shooter shooting from the hip, and Martin was a left-hand shooter.
The testimony that we'll hear in the next stream from Wendy says that that the shooting rampage inside the Broad Arrow Cafe was no more than a couple of minutes. Literally a handful of minutes. That, and trigger warning, that it happened so quickly that two of the people who were killed, two tourists, I think she says Japanese tourists, trigger warning, that they were sitting at their table in the cafe having their lunch or whatever. One of the tourists, her hand was still in the handle of her coffee mug, and the husband had a similar, like, I think it was holding a fork still. So not even So you're telling me that an objectively low IQ individual could be so stealth and so accurate with no gun license, no shooting training? Yep. There's people who say one of the guy who was shot in the neck, who survived like that. Fuck, that's wild. Knew Martin Bryant and said that was not Martin Bryant.
So once again, there's so much here. I could talk forever, and I know we have to wrap up at some point, but
of course, now, like, Paul, we've seen this played out, like, different locations, but kind of the same I don't want to say it's exactly the same, but we've seen like so many holes in the stories, things just not lining up, things not adding up, patsies, actors, things placed and where they shouldn't be. What do you think the purpose, the end goal of this is? I know you kind of mentioned, is possibly the, to remove all the guns from the population. Is that what you think it is? Or is that just is that just part of the process into something else much more vile?
I'm glad you asked that question. A lot of people comment on the WASP files saying, it was done for gun control to disarm us. Now, we do know we had more firearms in Australia than before Port Arthur, so that's not really successful. But philosophically, I've always replied and said, gun control alone is far too simple a motive. Anyone who studies history, and you should if you don't, going back through centuries, the oldest motivators in the book, power, money, influence, and control. There's always people that benefit from things such as 9/11, whether it's the insurance policies that were taken out on the building. There is the control mechanisms. Now we can seize offshore funds.
I'm going to call back to, again, if you haven't watched it, the live stream we did in the last few days. There's a new playlist. It's called Miss Shorty History Mystery. That's our new thing. Can I do it? Oh, stupid. I can't scroll. Excuse me. We did a stream on 9/11. It's got a very similar thumbnail to the one for tonight's show. It says 9/11 false flag. And so we are delving into this. Let me scoot back. I think it's all linked to our already critical thinking, right? And our understanding of psychology and true crime and the law, criminal law, the justice system.
Anyone who studies history, and you should if you don't, going back through centuries, the oldest motivators in the book, power, money, influence, and control. There's always people that benefit from things such as 9/11, whether it's the insurance policies that were taken out on the building. There is the control mechanisms. Now we can seize offshore funds and bank accounts. We can investigate further. We can hold people in places like Guantanamo Bay without charge for much longer and employ techniques to extract information. Power, money, influence, and control. Getting back to that notion that we all like to think our governments are all benevolent and look after us and that there are not shady aspects of the deep state and our intelligence agencies. And I can see from your response, you know what I'm talking about. These people will murder their civilians and have done throughout history. You only have to look at the statistics of nations that have disarmed their populations and then murdered them in their millions. Governments act with the lack of transparency, with the most heinous acts that civilian populations feel the brunt of. The COVID lockdowns alone was a draconian implementation that caused catastrophic damage. And you can debate back and forwards about what we needed to do and why we did it, but anyone who, I'll just sort of summarize it. So anyone who thinks that their governments will not act in a manner that could be very, shall we say, detrimental to our well-being is deluding themselves. You should never trust your government. And at least America has a constitutional right to be able to stand up and say, we're not going to let you. I mean, you have.
Vixie, of course governments sacrifice their people. CEG, war. Hundreds of thousands, millions of their people sent in to fight, generally, other people's wars. For what? For what? What was the Gulf War? What was Afghanistan?
You look at things like the Bundy Ranch standoff, Ruby Ridge, some of the
I was agreeing
very
too.
interesting aspects of the Waco siege and the
Pause,
Oklahoma bombings, and you know that there are.
So I think it goes more into bigger picture stuff, less specific on Port Arthur now for the rest of this. It's a very interesting conversation. So this interview was, I think, about 4 months ago, Let me scroll. Let me see. Oh no, I can't do that. What am I doing? Anyway, I think it was about 4 months ago. Less than 6. So no reference to something like Charlie Kirk or anyway. But so the conversation gets a little more broad, but very very relevant for our broader conversation, right? And really the reason why I fell into this rabbit hole is because of this broader picture stuff. So I guess I'm trying to honestly desensitize you guys a little bit to it so that we can have more conversations. But I see this talk about bacon and stuff in the chat. So
has a constitutional right to be able to stand up and say, we're not going to let you. I mean, you have to look at things like the Bundy Ranch standoff, Ruby Ridge, some of the very interesting aspects of the Waco siege, and the Oklahoma bombings, and you know that there are people who are recognizing the deep state. Your country, I love America, and I've been there a couple of times.
Just to correct you, Paul, I am not American. I am part of the Commonwealth too. I'm Canadian, so I know what it is. I know.
Apologies.
I know. So no, that's all right. That's all right. I know exactly what you mean about the privilege of having weapons and guns. It's a privilege, and Canada is starting to tighten up the restrictions on that now as well. The U.S. has a constitution, whereas Canada, we have our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and that is about it. But it's not. There's a notwithstanding clause that still can wipe it all away, and it's happening. And it's like little bit by little bit. It's people are bowing down to the tyranny for this false sense of security. It's like, yes, take my freedoms, take whatever you want. So please make me be safe. Please make me be safe. And it's just this constant barrage of fear on the news, and the government just keeps taking and taking. Then a big event comes and the government takes a lot, and then they give back a little bit. They give back just a little bit.
Yep. Princess Diana is another rabbit hole. That's one we're going to be going on. I cannot stress enough how many times every fucking day my heart breaks to the blinding flashes of realization I've been having. Princess Diana is another one. Like Marilyn Monroe, I already knew that she was killed. Michael Jackson. It's all connected. It's all connected. But Marilyn Monroe was a Mossad agent. What? Oh, she was a honeypot. Same as I love Marilyn Monroe so much, but she knew too much. It wasn't that she knew too much about JFK. She knew too much about the whole fucking operation. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck, planet Earth? What the fuck humans? Not all humans. But we need to reach critical mass. We need to rally together to share these. It's not conspiracy theory anymore. There are some things which are crazy and loopy. But so far, everything that I ever thought might have been no, it couldn't be. It fucking is. It fucking is. So let's start to feel safe that we're coming together as a community and acknowledging with each other that we've seen these things, that we know these things. Let's pool our resources. Pool our resources. There's a drawer in the Discord that's called The Truth Will Set You Free. I post in there all the time. And most people are too scared to go in there. But share the stuff. Let's pool our resources and start to come together, because and then share it, knowing that we've got safety in a very small group of numbers here, that we can start to, I don't know, work on the normies a bit. That's what I'm trying to do with you guys. Sadly, most of the normies storm in and go, "This is ridiculous," and storm out again because it's too confronting. But I have faith in us as a community, and I have faith in humanity. We can do this. We can do this. We have to save humanity. I'm not joking. Fuck.
So that you're like, oh, okay, things are great. Things are great. Our government is so good. And then it just keeps repeating, and it's more and more. And I think it's like this implementation, the soft, maybe not even soft, but soft implementation of a monarchy. That's what we're headed for. We're all servants, wanting to be ruled. Well, I'm not saying I want to be ruled, but there's so many people that just want to serve under a king. And it's funny, these protests that are happening in the U.S., these no kings. I'm like, are you kidding me? Do you not see what is happening? You guys are all falling for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge philosophical debate. And firstly, I'll say, and it's going to sting a little bit for some people, if you're from Canada, my commiserations. What's going on over there is horrendous. I'm not a fan of Trudeau and the government there, and some of their, the trucking protest for a start, where people wanted to donate to those protests, and the government froze their bank accounts. I mean, this is legitimate protest, and you're able to freeze people's bank accounts. People are being, of course, jailed for the most ridiculous things, whether they post on social media or say something, mispronounce someone's gender. People are being jailed. The Commonwealth particularly seems to have a problem with this implementation of these government shills, these leaders that are running some kind of agenda for a horrendous new world order. And they are stripping the rights away from their civilian populations piecemeal. We have rights. We ostensibly have a constitution and a Bill of Rights here, but we have no rights of freedom of speech here. We have somebody brought in legislation called 18C in Australia, which makes it an offence to offend somebody.
This is crazy.
So if you say something or do something that offends someone, you can be charged. And, all the comedians are making jokes and saying, well, boy bands offend me. And, okay, you said something that offended me and I got leprosy. It's like, if you get offended, get over it. But you can't legislate to criminally charge somebody if they offend you. And we know what's going on all over the world, particularly in the States. And, yeah, you and I both know that all of this division, black against white, left against straight, trans against, heterosexual, it's all engineered. It's deliberate. It's the oldest trick in the book, divide and conquer. Get us fighting each other. Divide. Yes. And then we're not looking at the real perpetrators of the oppression of mankind. We know who they are, very powerful groups. We've talked about them, the likes of Soros and the World Economic Forum, Charles Schwab and Bill Gates, and, the power players, the 28 families, the Rockefellers and Rothschilds that rule the world, and they buy and sell countries. They own governments. They end and start wars. They crash economies. And these are the people that are basically just recognizing that we're just this big mass. Let's just get them fighting each other, and let's orchestrate events that will just put the world control under our firm grip. They will implement, agendas to be able to further their own needs. It's, you can argue it all you like. The New World Order, the Great Reset, which is now no longer conspiracy, is a fact. The United Nations is a vanguard for that. And there are some very evil people that are running the show. And it distresses me a lot that we're fighting each other instead of just being reasoned, civil, decorum, questioning events, holding our governments.
It also distresses me. It really distresses me that people are so easily, not all people, but the bell curve, the majority, the sheep, the well-behaved, the unwilling to be uncomfortable. They're so easily drawn into the psyops of it all, into the full-blown psychological operation of a tactic as old as time to divide and conquer, to have the masses fighting amongst themselves, rather than looking up, because it's always up, and realizing that the people, the very small minority at the top, are to blame, are at the helm of all of this. See you, Laura. Wait. I can't see. I see people saying goodbye, Laura. So goodbye, Laura. I love you. Thank you for being here. And before I hit play again, Stucky says, in my opinion, we're in another wave of people willing to learn. It's absolutely a wild and amazing time to be alive. Terrifying, but so important. And my latest, one of my latest things, other than to type demon quite a lot, demons on Twitter, is to say like falling on the right or the wrong side of history. Like this is a point in time, and it's to be able to say not like, did we stand up and be counted? Did we use our voice and our intelligence and our discernment and our critical thinking skills to say and do what's right? So Stucky says, as always, some are silenced, in my opinion. Once aware, we need to come together and work together globally. Peace, love, light, and kindness always. Amen. Amen. That's why I'm talking about like critical mass and feeling resolute and fortified by the fact that there are more of us out there than we realize. I know after my Hollywood stream, perhaps it was the 9/11 stream, a couple of shorties in the Discord reached out to me privately in DMs and sort of concurred with my sentiments. It's a risky thing. Like what I'm doing here is risky for my channel. It could easily be nuked at any time because for my liberty in Australia, I'm awaiting any day for a knock on my door to have that talk from the police because of my hateful conduct. It's not hateful. It's just noticing. It's just facts. I'm not hateful. Can you imagine me being hateful? So we've got this. Chat, shorties, we've got this.
To account, standing up for our rights. We need to get our guts back.
The
we need to stand
defence
up and
rests.
fight.
Hello.
It's starting to happen.
Good to see you.
You can see it in Europe and the UK. My country is very slow to wake up. Canada, I think, needs to wake up as well.
I left I left Canada. I left Canada during COVID, and it was because one of the reasons was it's failed. I saw it failing, and I have some good friends back there, and I was fighting the fight as well. I was out there protesting, and but it was I got to the point where I'm like, I don't feel safe here anymore. I feel like it's fallen. This isn't the Canada that I grew up in. This isn't the one that when I was a little boy, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying politicians were great when I was young. They're all corrupted, but it was better then. And it is getting worse and worse. And people are just willing to accept it. And they will call it there's a hotline. They're going to call you in for, you got some people in your house that shouldn't be in your house, and of course I was having people in my house when I shouldn't have been. That was my right to fight that tyranny. It was like, yeah, I'm having people over. I don't care if it's a lockdown. This is what's happening because that's my right to fight tyranny. That's my duty.
We had the longest lockdowns in the world in Victoria. 2 years we were locked down under Premier Daniel Andrews. I have never seen more jackboot draconian policing. They were forcing masks on people, arresting pregnant women in front of their families because of Facebook posts where they were trying to organise protests. We had riot police marching through, a community market, ensuring that people were, we had helicopters patrolling open air parks, from the air, making sure.
To be fair, for much of COVID, I was homeless. For the bulk of the outrageous stage 4 lockdown and before, I was homeless from the beginning of COVID through to November of 2020. So I lived in my car. And so for me, good, it's got the right background. For me, it was, we were supposed to stay, we were supposed to, in Melbourne, we weren't allowed to drive further than a 5 kilometer radius from our home, but I didn't have a home. So I could be wherever I wanted to be, and I was. So and we had an 8 p.m. curfew, 8 till 6. You weren't allowed out of your homes. But again, I was in my car. And so I saw a lot. There were people out driving, people who refuse to comply. Hi, it's me. I quite liked the mask mandate because it meant that I could just be like anonymous. I hated it at first, like panic attacks. Ugh. But eventually I quite liked it. I came to really appreciate it. I missed masks when they were no longer mandated because I was like, oh, I like that anonymity. I liked not having to put on a makeup face or or a smiling face, the literal or metaphorical mask. Jody, that'd be amazing. I already went before you got here. I spoke of reaching out to Paul, so I'd love to. I'd love to talk to him. Actually, we will probably do that. But yeah, the wild shit that happened in those curfew hours that I saw because I was out and about, the wild shit. Helicopters hovering in the sky, like 5, 6, 7 for hours. In the city. One time I was driving through the city and near the what's it called? Near all the tennis and shit happens, Olympic Boulevard, and I was at the it's a big intersection, and I was at the intersection, and I looked to my right. I was going to my drug dealer. Yes, I looked to my right, and up basically where the tennis center and Rod Laver Arena. There you go, and Marvel Stadium. No, wherever the footy guys play. Fuck, I don't do sports ball. There was just this bank of police vehicles with their lights on, blocking the whole road into the city for no reason. There was no signage. There was no detour ahead. There was no traffic control. Just wild shit. The wild shit. And those helicopters would be hovering over the sky in the one place for hours and hours and hours, all the way through till about 5 a.m. They weren't looking for anything. What were they doing? They weren't like circling. They were just hovering. 5, 6, 7 helicopters. And then they'd all go back to wherever, just in time for the curfew to lift. Crazy shit. Crazy shit. Crazy shit. People talking about the mask mandate. Thank you, MCG. My brain. Some things I can retain forever. Other things I am Dory. Yeah, I really panicked with like I don't do well with swimming, like putting my face underwater with doing proper swimming. I panic, but I struggled at first. I was like, but I just choked myself. Literally, that's how I felt. But I actually very quickly came to appreciate the mask, and I had cute ones that I'd sewn floral and shit. Yeah, the 5G towers. That's yeah. Architect. I shouldn't have been so hyper dramatic with my reenactment. Yeah, the thing that got me out of I've told this story before, but the thing that because Australia had a no homeless thing going. So if anybody to get everybody off the streets, wonder why. We don't want any eyes on anything. So if you were homeless during COVID, you could go to like the charities and get housing indefinitely. And I refused. So, but because I was living in my car, but I had a storage unit, and so in the day, my cat Petey and I, and my little dog Ellie, actually two of my pets died. My pets were taken from me because I was in my car, and they were all taken for about 6 weeks. I don't remember how long it was, maybe 3 weeks. And I got them all back. And within a month, 2 of them were dead. They all caught kennel cough, but only Petey survived. But anyway, we'd be in the storage unit, Storage King, all day. And then before the storage unit would close, and they knew I was there. I would go into the bathrooms and wash my teeth, wash my face, etc. Put my pajamas on, get my bed in my car set up, and then say goodnight to Petey for the night, and then go to the place where I was going to park. Good God, yeah. Well, a lot of the problem for me getting proper assistance was that because I had a home, because I had a car, they considered me to be less in need. Well, I can tell you, living in your car is a fucking shit go, but I'm sure it was better than no car. So see, there's a lot of empathy, and we've all lived through a lot, huh? But when the stage 4 lockdown came in, where like you couldn't go anywhere, McDonald's, every fast food place, every public toilet, including at Storage King, they locked their bathrooms. So I suddenly had no access to running fresh water, none, to toilets, to wash facilities. I had nothing. Like, sorry to be graphic, but I literally had to shit in a bucket with a plastic bag lining it. And that was just the end. I felt like an animal. It was animalistic. It was disgusting. So I went and sought charitable assistance, and here I am. I have been homeless since, but that was because of domestic violence, but not from an intimate partner, just from a housemate almost. Anyway, so all that to say, Melbourne was wild in COVID, and holy shit. I've had relatively stable housing for 2.5 years now, although the risk is always there. Just 2 months ago, I mean, I didn't have a hot water system. My landlord is an absolute fucking tyrant. He's a piece of shit. Shout out Tony. He's better now. I don't know why he's improved, but I didn't have hot water in my home from March this year until only about 2 months ago. He knew, my landlord knew, but about a year and a half ago, July last year. It's the reason I started streaming, because he gave me 2 months to be evicted for no reason, to vacate, just because I wanted to know some dates and times as to when they were supposedly going to do some renovations in my place. Anyway, I was like, no, just tell me some times, and he wouldn't. So he gave me my eviction notice, and I couldn't cope. The rental market in Australia is ludicrous. So instead of looking for a place to live, I just started live streaming. Of course, pathological demand avoidance, and here we are. But even a couple of months ago, this dickhead Tony was come to my TED Talk, walk and talk chat. He messaged me. He'd been overseas, and he said, "Lisa, what's going on? Are you still?" I did refuse to leave. Basically, after the 2 months, he goes, "Have you found a place?" I'm like, "Tony, there's nowhere. I'm not leaving." He goes, "Okay, I'm putting the rent up," and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, fine." So the rent, I pay $450 a week rent just by myself. It's no wonder I'm fucking tired. I'm broke ass. But a couple of months ago, so he'd been overseas, and I finally was able to pay by a direct, like, funds transfer rather than cash. He used to insist on picking up cash. He's such a creep. He's such a creep. He and his son used to come into my place unannounced, and just, I don't know. Anyway, so excuse me. So he messaged me. He says, "Lisa, what's going on? You haven't paid rent in 2 months." I've never not paid rent. I paid on time every time. It's a fucking disaster. The 15th of the month comes around very quickly, and he goes, "You haven't paid." I'm like, "Excuse me, sir." And I sent him, like, straight away the screenshots of my rent paying receipts and said, "Incorrect, check your records." He didn't reply to that. And then 3 weeks after that, he sent me another message, first message since, on a different phone number, mind you. He changed his number, saying, "Lisa, have you moved out? I've disconnected the gas and the water and the electricity because you moved out." I'm like, shut the fuck up. He got full boundaries shorty, right? I was like, no, I sent you my receipts immediately. It's not on me that you cannot check your records. I'm like, check your records, reconnect all of the utilities now. And by the way, I haven't had hot water for 9 months, you fuck. I said, this is insanity. And it was like, they never hit the water and stuff never cut off. Oh, sorry. He obviously either he was bluffing or he reversed it immediately. And within a few days, he delivered a secondhand hot water system. And the week after that, my neighbor installed it for me. So I finally had hot showers. I had all of winter just like doing sparrow showers and stuff. Oh, what a nightmare. Anyway, so all that to say, that's my housing stability, but it's better than living in my car. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Where were we? Fuck. Ay. Okay, back to conspiracy theories. Much easier than reality.
But it was, I will never, ever, I never want to see that ever again in our country. And I know that if they try lockdowns again here, people will turn.
Well, for context, my average income is about, and I'm casual paid, so if I don't work, I don't get paid. So for the last 2 weeks, no income. And we always take side quests. So my income, Australian, it's close to a half of my income. A week, my rent. The dogs and Tim bloody love those dingleberries, but they cost me, their food tips me over into more than half my income. Actually, I don't know where my money goes. Buying merch for you guys. No, I'm kidding.
Around and say no. The catastrophic result, broken homes, lost businesses, increased domestic violence, suicide, sexual abuse, mental health issues, and of course the side effects from the vaccines themselves. That the toll of that was far greater than the benevolent notion of the. We know that the governments like to implement the Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. Oh, there's a problem. We'll scare the population. The population are frightened. Don't worry, the government has a solution. Lock you down, force you to wear.
Sorry, one more thing. Simi said, do you all have something like housing authority that regulates landlords? Yes, he doesn't have a leg to stand on. Incidentally, there is no. I don't have a lease, but I've paid tens of thousands of dollars in rent. He never has once given me a receipt, but I keep receipts because you know what we do around here. We keep the receipts. And he, so if I took it to the tribunal, he would be fucked. But who wants to do it? Like, why do I have to live like that? I live in a hovel. But the only reason I live here is because when I was actually looking for a legitimate place with proper landlords and shit, it's a private rental agreement, agreement. I'd been looking for months, and every time I went, there would be 50, 60, 70 parties, couples usually, or families looking for places. And I replied every weekend for 4 or 5 places, and never once. And where I was staying, I was just staying with my best friend. I've told this story before. And she'd given me what I thought was a loose deadline for mid-July, early July, to find another place. And I was working 50 hours a week. It was before I had the channel, obviously. 50 hours a week and then house hunting all weekend. I was fucked to no avail, very desperate. And then one weekend, she sent me a text message on the Sunday saying, Lisa, I need you out by next weekend. Best friends. Needless to say, I haven't spoken to her since. I moved out myself. I did 22,000 steps the following weekend, carrying furniture every step and boxes. She didn't lift a finger. Lovely lady. But I had a rat dog, little junkie friend whose father owned a place who'd offered it to me. He had ulterior motives. And I was like, thanks, but no thanks. But obviously, desperate times call for desperate measures. And that's where I am. So let's go back to topic reminder. Thanks for the side quest. Love you all.
Masks.
Happy New Year.
I am unvaccinated. It'll be a cold day in hell before I put that vaccine in me. I don't have a problem with vaccinations, provided they go through the 10-year process of being tested. Thalidomide, anyone? And I never wore a mask as well.
Actually, there is so many more like that. That's a whole other bag of worms.
Yeah.
That I highly recommend watching Del Bigtree about that, because I will never touch a vaccine ever again in my life. After actually looking into them and seeing that none are properly safety tested. Zero are tested against a placebo. There is no double-blind placebo studies done with any of the vaccines. And some of the vaccines, what they're tested against is another vaccine. So if this original vaccine has a lot of, let's say, reactions, then this one, if it has a lot of reactions, it cancels out. So this is something I think everybody needs to look into. It's not, and I applaud people for saying no to COVID, but I say start looking at those other ones as well. And you were saying that if the lockdowns happen again, you think that Australia will fight it. Unfortunately, I don't think Canada will. I think most of Canada will take it. I know, like I said, I got a lot of good friends back in Canada who will fight it. But unfortunately, I believe the majority is more than happy to bend the knee.
That's the saddest aspect. It's, I don't like to denigrate the mass populations, but people will generally just comply. They'll go along with, and it's sad because, in relation to what you're saying about big pharma, I'm med free now. I don't take anything. I don't even take Panadol. I've got pains and aches and so on. No. I'm going to find alternate sources, hopefully,
DSMO
that will be effective for anything. But you're right. Big Pharma makes billions of dollars keeping us sick, not making us healthy. And I see people on that merry-go-round of take this and then that's extrapolated that, so you better take that, which will then alleviate that, and then you've got to go back to that. And they're just bouncing up and down like a seesaw. And people who reach the later years of their life and they have an abacus full of tray of pills and they're taking not this little black duck.
Neither.
It's just,
it's
I want to be able to trust the powers that be. Of course, we want to know that our needs are looked after, but unfortunately, I don't feel that way. And I feel that we're just rolling over and just taking it, and it's to our detriment. Very sad.
I agree totally, Paul, with you. I agree totally with you. I want to trust, but I think from the track record, we have to know that it's not it's something we can't do. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And so never again, never I will trust. That's just the way it goes. So Paul, I want to thank you so much for spending the time and coming on here and just delivering all these facts, because that's what it is. You're giving the facts. There's you put a little bit of a speculation because you have to speculate a little bit, but you are giving eyewitness reports. You're giving all these coincidences that aren't coincidences when you have so many. It's synchronicities. There's something fishy that is going on, and it's leading us down a path that I don't want to go. I think that we all need to realize that these aren't isolated events. Though they look isolated, there's a lot of hallmarks and trademarks of other events that have happened throughout the world. So it's not just the US this is happening. That's not just, like in Mexico or Canada or the UK. This is happening throughout the world, and we need to realize that this is coming from a playbook, and we have to be aware and vigilant. And we have to stand up against this tyranny. So, Paul, thank you so much. If you can give a shout out one more time to where everybody can find you, that would be fantastic.
My channel is called The Wasp Files on YouTube. And not only is it an ongoing film podcast exploring all of these aspects of Port Arthur, but there's links to what I will be creating, the largest resource library on Port Arthur. The witness statements, the facts, the evidence. And look, you make your own minds up. I'm not here to judge. I'm here to explore, to educate what you don't know about things, and it's up to you. I often say to people, have at me. I welcome my detractors as well as I invite my supporters. Debate. Use decorum, civility, reason, logic, rationale, by all means. And passion is good too. But do your research into everything, whether it's 9/11, COVID, Port Arthur. Do your research before you spout off, and don't just trust what your government and media spew out to you, because, not to put too fine a point on it, they're full of crap.
I could not agree anymore, Paul. And so again, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And if you could just hang it on the green room while I do my outro.
Pause. Okay, so that's that. Excuse me. Yes, Jody, we've dived very deep into all of it. We're at the 4-hour mark now. So yes, absolutely. So thank you all for being here. I've loved the conversation, the company, the laughs, the little side quests. I appreciate you all very much. I'm going to clear my throat again. Fuck's sake. Delightful. I'm a fucking delight. So if you haven't already, go and peruse. It's only small. That's what she said. At the at the moment, it's called History Mystery. What's the playlist called? Something. I haven't saved this one into it. I'll have to add a few more, most recent videos that we've done, live streams, into History Mystery. Let me check. Make sure you're subscribed. Because it can't be so many people hate me. Can't be that so many people hate me that they're unsubscribing. I just don't see that happening. It's called HM. No, that's mine. It's called History, Mystery, and All That Jazz. At the moment, it's only got one video. I'll go in there now and add the videos we've done since. Tomorrow night. So anything that isn't court, that isn't psychology, that isn't neurodivergence, will be in that playlist. If you've got any suggestions, we'll add to it. I'm definitely going to look into Dunblane. Thank you, Vixie, for that one. And tomorrow night, I believe, is the Pizzagate first episode of Pizzagate, because fuck, man, it's all connected. Jeez Louise. And then I think we're doing part 3 of the Zionist Project view party on the next night. We'll probably go back to court next weekend, maybe. I don't know. We have to finish. we have to finish the Eye Drops murder trial, because I ain't a quitter. But it might take us a minute to get back there, because I feel like this is kind of more important, and I hope you understand. I love you all very much. Thank you, my beautiful mods. Congratulations to Steph and Hedda for winning the merch draw. Steph, let me know what you want, girl. If you didn't watch last night's Health is Wealth stream, you should. It was great. So much important information in there. We'll do another one of them for shizzle. And Nina, we love you too. Everyone's busy. You've always got a seat here, even if it's been forever since you've been back. I love seeing some faces that haven't been around in a while. I love seeing folks who are willing and able to sit in their discomfort, because that's where growth happens, right? So be kind to each other. Be kind to yourself. Trust nobody if they're in the government or in positions of power. Ask questions, use your discernment, and I will see you all tomorrow night. Mwah.
I love you all so very much. We had a blast just chatting and stuff. Things may have gone bit off the rails. Professional when all else fails. 'Cause chat is great, so much to say. Emotes and all the caps out. May have been cheese, bit faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. We're skating through all the tough things, learning about this and that, defense motions, prosecution, and narcissistic twats. 'Cause chat is babe, so much to say. Emotes and all the all caps out. May have been cheese, bit faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. Community, just you and me. Occasionally, Buster and Poppy. It's the whole thing, Miss Shorty swing. Together we make each other happy. 'Cause chat is babe, so much to say.